All action today, isn't it? It's on stage 16 of Tour de France as the riders at the front riding a steady tempo, but salvos continue to be fired from an ever-active main peloton. 165 riders strong starting today. Just one notable absentee, and that is, of course, Mathieu van der Poel, unfortunately called ashore and has picked up pneumonia. His cold developed from something manageable into something altogether more stressful and difficult for his system. So he's going to make a recover from that. So disappointing for Mathieu van der Poel. It's one of the riders removed from contention in the points classification. The stage 2 winner, of course, van der Poel. But Jonathan Milan still very much at the head of the green jersey classification. We've seen attacks from today, Brian, but he's yet to find the right one.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be success for the three in front. As I was just saying to Carlton, Declan, that if you had to write the script off today for UAE team member, this is perfect for them. Absolutely perfect. They've had about 50 Ks of everybody going hammer and tong. They've not had to do much apart from just show up a couple of gaps here and there. There's three riders in front. It's not a huge breakaway.
Niels Pollitt, the only one showing off the front very briefly, and he decided that wasn't.
Well, there's one group there with Tim Wellens was actually in it as well with Niels Pollitt. So, but they wouldn't have wanted to ride the whole stage and try and control things. Well, they've let the race come to them, and the fact that there's only three riders in front, that the teams weren't helping each other. They were actually kind of chasing, bringing back gaps themselves. We saw Tudor Pro Cycling there. The two in front, Alaphilippe in a sizable group, and then they were still chasing behind. I'm baffled the way that
the Tudor radios might be needing a little bit of tuning up, perhaps.
Yeah, possibly, but I just think this is playing into the hands of UAE Emirates, and this could have been, I said it right from the start, with a sizable breakaway with the right riders in it, it could have had a chance, but now it's no chance. And even for Jonathan Milan, okay, three in front, there's still good points up for that sprint, so Lidl Trek will be happy with this situation as well. But there must be so many other teams. We've seen Cofidis, we heard from Arkea. There's a lot of teams that were trying to get themselves in the breakaway, but that's it, it's all over. And three in front and UAE Team Emirates will just control things to the bottom of the climb, and the fight will be on between Pogačar and co, and who can stay with him, who can beat him.
Yeah, he wants to win that stage. Don't make any mistake about it. He's got a new bike today, another new bike, as light as he can possibly make it. I wonder how he's feeling after the rest days. He recovered from that little sniffle. Let's hear from your yellow jersey now.
When I was speaking to Machin before, he said you all had a fantastic rest day. What made it so brilliant?
I don't know what was he doing on the rest day, but yeah, I had a good day. I would say, yeah, more or less 10 out of 10. Urška came to our hotel yesterday. We ride together. She was on the ride with us with the coffee stop. She trained, of course, speed more than us, but yeah, spent a nice afternoon with the closest one, so it was a beautiful day.
I can see you've got a new bike as well. A special bike for today's stage. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I've been yeah, it's a very nice thing to do from Colnago to bring down the aero bike to super low weight. So this is what I've been wishing for a long time, and yeah, I think today is the day to have this kind of bike.
You said you want to win on Mont Ventoux in the yellow jersey. How do you make that possible? How do you do that, Tadej?
When did I say?
This is what I was hearing from me and Matt were discussing about it. You did, yeah. Come on.
Probably, yeah, no, but everybody wants to win stage in the tour, and today is the Mont Ventoux. I think, yeah, it's a legendary climb, and if you can win in yellow jersey, is something really iconic, maybe. But yeah, we know we're here. We are here to bring the yellow jersey to Paris.
Thanks a lot, Tadej. Best of luck.
Don't believe all the rumours, even if he started them. Yeah, he absolutely, definitely does want to win that stage today.
Yeah, but he's not. He wasn't overly committal to that one, saying we're going to ride, we're going to control things. Look, of course he wants to win, but the way that the race has happened so far in the first 50 kilometres, it suited them right down to the grounds. They haven't had to do much, so now they've got
زيادة بوغاتشا زلا جروب يا هم رئيس لنا تعذبتي
easily. Right, no disrespect for them. Right, it's three in front. They can just put Paula at the front with maybe one other rider and control it, and it's nice and easy. And then it comes down to the showdown on Mont Ventoux. Who can beat Pogacar? That's the question today, because they're not going to do it from this scenario. So for a lot of the teams that were thinking about trying to get themselves in the breakaway with a chance to win in this stage, they've just, to me, they've got no chance. The only person that can possibly climb and challenge Pogacar today is Vingegaard. I think everybody else will be, losing time. It's happened, but three riders in front. No disrespect, Hirschi, great rider. I would say Sandro Morrison can climb a little bit. Marco Haller, as we know, just strong rider and things like that. But they must be thinking now, Declan, well,
here's a radical idea. Why don't they just pull the pin and go back and then reset and start it all over again?
Yeah. That's never going to happen.
It's impossible to give up on the idea that you've got your minute and a half lead. But
زين ريز لنا بينجر قال
just not going to be enough, that they will never have more than 3 minutes, we imagine.
بوغاتشا تخاطاتلو زلو بنتبي مغانا عند بوغاتشا يزلو بينجر قال
just to sit at the front now and control them, keep them in a short lead, and everybody happy just to ride into the bottom of the climb. They can do that for 2 hours. Asking a team to do that from the start of the stage for 3 or 4 hours is a bigger ask. Of course, Pogacar just said they want to have the yellow jersey in Paris, so they're not going to burn their team out. The interest for me is, what's Vingegaard got left? Is there any other challengers? And then we've got the battle for white.
Okay, همزري زلنا بيني حونا يزي.
Are we going to see any changes in the top 10? Because we've already seen
بيني جيجنا هلا.
a lot of riders riding
مسكانتو مالت
for
يوجي.
their place in the top 10. So this
كمالسي
stage
تزناني من دلو.
can
كبرات
Pogacar win the
عزبتنا.
stage in yellow? I think he can. But the rest is, how are the other riders feeling now in the top 10? Are we going to see, can Ben Healy keep a hold of a top 10 performance today?
Yeah, Ben Healy, one of the riders, lost a little bit of time on. Well, he lost a position, didn't he, to Carlos Rodriguez? He stayed with the GC group, so he would have been relatively content.
أتقولس كل جزء بقولس همزري لخبرة تعذبتنا. كل جزء كلمة كوينام ناي محباب بحر اللهم كومدوما. جانكو فيز ما دما همزري مدلنا. كل جزء تختيلون الناتهم زخورو. نبي نخا خمسة زدلي نيرو نبي نحاول نادما خمسة عين تكانتها تدلي نيرا مالت كل جزء أفرونت خوت ولا كلمة خوت يوم كمرحوب تعمي وحبسكا دحري وتي هاي زغون دحري مجرشاس على وتي زلوا كم انتر مارشي لما انا كنت تصقما زلوا سيدو حرقته تعمي حبسكا كنزل زلنا حجي بحبار يم زغون دلو زي تعباي بجلته كلها زلوا وين
contender for that one, sitting 5th overall. 13 seconds behind Oscar Onley. That one's finally poised. You would suggest, having on the way into the rest day, there's every chance that Oscar Onley could take a little bit more time out of Kevin Volkan, but can he get to Florian Lipovitz, whose star is certainly in the ascendant?
Yeah, when you mention that, I'll get you just to have a wee think about your Belgian winners of the stages, because I'm going to test you out here. Without looking, Declan, yeah, but we have had an Italian winner. We've not had that since Nibali.
Yeah.
A long time, but who are the 5 winners of Belgium?
Well, 5 stage wins, I think, isn't it? Maybe
بين عونا قد أم حلفاتك على ما نتنبر بيني كرينا صنيحم كاميرا بتعمي مسمورال يزلو بينيهم سملو تعني يزلو
I'll start you off, Philipson.
Day 1. fantastic performance.
Epical.
Yeah. Wellens is obviously the last one.
كم زريم زلنا بساعة 52.5 كيلومتر نداته وعزينا نريم زلنا تقدمتي.
That's 5 wins. Yeah, 4 riders. Which is, as far as I understand, the 3rd successive year that's happened.
So we see a bit of action there, Jaco Lula, a team that, like many other teams, want something from the day, just don't want a procession from UAE team Emirates. So
كبرات عزازب كبرات عزبتنا كم زن كاتر لنا زخون ريتو كومنت ندهبكم أمام قونزي وعوة صوتا.
They don't have to do this, of course. They're just trying to make it easy for themselves. So they've just said to
كل خبرات احنا ما لايك شير اي نحن اخوات.
No, we want an easier day, and you will not help. So we are not going to help you.
They are the kind of riders who could conceivably ride across a 1 minute and 40-second gap, aren't they?
And make it harder for them, and they going across to the other 3, makes it 5 stronger riders. The reason why UAE team Emirates are chasing is because if they nip this in the buds, they can make it easy for them. Look at them. Look at even Adam Yates. He's like struggling to hold the wheel. Where are Plapp and Schmidt in the general classification? Nowhere. Yeah. So this is where they make a bigger effort now, nip it in the buds. But surely there's other teams in here that have to realise, just, you know, have a crack, have a talk to some of the teams.
Well, there'll be mounting resentment, really, that UAE want to try and take everything, because a lot of teams haven't got much out of this race, and it's, you know, the victory for Tim Wellens. I mean, Victor Campenarts, his fellow countryman and rival in the Abis Bike squad, he was most effusive, I think, in his praise and admiration and respect for Tim Wellens. But as we heard from others, there, you know, a little bit of grumpiness about Tim Wellens' victory a couple of days ago. Is there a suggestion that maybe just UAE are taking too much and getting a little bit greedy?
Yeah, there might be a case of that, but I don't think the teams have done enough for themselves. We just saw Jaco Lola with 2 there, and now it's Movistar with 2. Come on, guys, like, talk to each other, just say to them, there's a lot of teams not happy with this situation. Groupama with one rider here, but you're making it easy for UAE team Emirates here. Look at Niels Pollitt, he's coming up here and just going to laughing. What are you doing? Get back.
كم زغن ريس أنا حنا خبرة تعجبتنا مالت يم داخل سو نتوارى زخود زلوا. جانغو بيزماس قاب حجين تاش ما يقبرنا له مالس أكمل كوين خمر حير أنا يمالنا بيجي كله ثاني حج لما مو زان سنة لو يطول حجز ولا حجي.
So nice to see Sean Flynn. Up towards the pointy end, but yeah, just keep on doing this. Victor Campenarts is there. Looks like Lawrence Pithet. Now we see Bahrain. Just keep on doing things. Is that Fred right at the back?
Well, the Movistar squad certainly on the attack with great intent. This is how they're equipped in Tour de France 2025. I mean, you talk about teams kind of getting together, forming a sort of a collective. Obviously, they want to compete against each other to win the stage, but in order to win the stage, they need to maybe get together. I mean, how do you sort of organize that cooperation, and how do you, first of all, you might sort of get an agreement from other squads they would try and attack together, but how do they actually make it work out on the road?
Well, some riders within teams are good at that because they've maybe been in a team with some riders from opposing teams now, so it's just a lot about communication. Are you happy with the situation? No. So we try and keep the momentum going. We're just not going to allow UAE team Emirates just to sit at the front and control it. It was just going to be Formula 8 stage, 3 riders in front, UAE team Emirates control it, and then Pogacar just zips up the road and, you know, wins the stage in the final climb. Of course, no one wants that. We heard from the sports directors. Everybody knows that if you come to the final climb today, Mont Blanc 2, that Tadej Pogacar is the favourite. So you have to get there before him and put minutes into the team, into the team behind. But I think what we're seeing now is not nice. This is Gashinard and clearly upset.
Yeah.
clearly in tears. He's pulled his radio out his ear, and unfortunately, he could be another victim of illness in this race.
Yeah, well, he's riding up through the group at the moment as they find themselves, the cavalcade, just through the feed zone. It's all action at the front, and this pace, this relentless pace, this unforgiving pace is just preventing riders from having anything like the easy day that they possibly need. This is also rated as a coefficient 3 stage, which means that the time cut is not particularly generous. It does have a big mountain at the end, and theoretically all the sprinters should at least be with the race leader by the time they arrive on the final mountains. Just should be okay for most
ከምዚ
riders to
ንሪኦም
make
ዘለና
time
ክቡራት
cuts. If
ተዓዘብትና
you're having any sort of
ትማሊ ኣብ ዕረፍቲ እዮም
whatsoever,
ውዒሎም
time cuts
በቃ
now
ምስ
would
ሙሉእ ሓይሎም
generous
እዮም
rather
ሎማ
than
ዓንቲ
it would be on
ሓድሽ ሓይሊ ማለት እዩ
Alpine summit finishes.
ኣጀማምሮም ብሓድሽ ሓይሊ እዩ ዘሎ ሓንቲ መዓልቲ ዕረፍቲ ዓባይ ጥቕሚ እያ ዘለዋ
Inside 50 now to
ምስ ሙሉእ መንፈሶም እዮም ዘለዎ በዚ ንሪኦ ዘለና
break being firmly established because they've paired up
ክቡራት ተዓዘብቲ ሳብስክራይብ ላይክ ሼር እንዳገበርና ኣይንሕምቕ ደቂ ዓበይቲ ነቶም ዘይባፅሑ ዘይበፅሖም ዘሎ እንዳባፅሕና ኣሎም ማለት እዩ ኩሉ ክከታተሎ ማንታን እዚ ደገፍኩም እንዳገለፅኩም ኮመንት ላይክ ሼር ድማ ይድነሕምቕ ግምታትኩም አስፍሩ
a little bug or a sniffle can sort of go through the peloton like a dose of salt.
Yeah, it's the same. You have to monitor that situation. UE team member has had that with Civikov, was feeling a little bit unwell, and of course it goes around, and you try and protect the riders as much as possible when you can.
Including today, Pogacar. He's had his own little sniffles. He seems pretty relaxed in how he's presenting to the media and to the public. The overall race leader himself could potentially be compromised a little bit, or has been. Has he managed to recover? We heard that he had a relatively relaxed rest day and went for a bike ride with the team, and indeed with his partner Iska Zigart, who's looking forward to Tour de France Femme coming up in a week or so. So she rode herself through Giro d'Italia, and she actually had a much more intense bike ride yesterday than her partner. Movistar are launching everything in the last 10 minutes or so, and Niels Pollard trying to cover everything they're doing.
He's not happy, is he? They've got his back up, so you can see it here. What are you doing? He's having a go at Romeo. There's no reason.
Not okay, is it?
Niels, there's no look. Let these guys race. They're entitled to race, right? Stop trying to intimidate them, right? If you continue to do this, then you'll get under the skin of the other teams, and they'll ride against. They will not help you. They'll just keep on riding against you. It's every team's right and every individual's right to do these things. Why keep on having a go at them? There's no reason for that. That's just pure intimidation, and it's not putting your team in the best possible light.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look good for the team. It looks slightly like the big team is bullying a little bit, doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, they are. It's one rider that's doing it. It's Niels Pollard is doing it. There's no reason to do it. Just follow. Let them race. A lot of that happened in the past. I think I told you about the Bernardino situation with Robert Miller, telling him in those days it was like you raced when Bernardino said you raced, and if you tried to race on a climb when he said no, there's no racing on here, then he didn't like it. So there's a lot of intimidation and back then, but nowadays there's none. So it's not nice to see what Niels Pollard has done, not once but twice. That's a young Romeo is a young rider, national champion, and he's just trying to race. He's trying to do what his team want him to do. And
actual
Niels
fact,
Pollard's having a go.
You hear these days that they're less likely to be intimidated by that kind of behaviour. Any suggestion of bullying tactics hasn't had much of an effect on the ambition of the Movistar riders. And as I was saying, so the younger riders these days will often not just necessarily be respecters of the reputation of more experienced riders.
If one of my riders, because they were trying to do it when I was there in 2015. Tyler Ferrara said, "Look, we've been told we can't do this and can't do this." I would just go completely against it. I said, "It's more inspiration for you guys to get yourself in a breakaway, to do these things." I just don't like these type of intimidation things. So it's clear that Neil Pollard can say what he wants, but they're getting under Movistar's thinking, sod you, right? We're going to try even harder now.
Yes, yeah. Oh, there it goes, looming in the distance. I can imagine you can see hereabouts the Bald Mountain is the prospect at the end of the day. We've still got the intermediate sprint to come, and I was just about to speak out to Jonathan Milan in the green jersey. Things are looking a little bit more positive for him, because maximum of 20 points on offer at that intermediate sprint. The gap down to 12 seconds. It looks potentially as if those riders are coming back, or else we're going to have a few coming up to visit them very shortly. And I feel semi-certain that a Movistar rider is going to be in it, or everyone will be hopping around in this race.
ጾታና ከፍጻሜ 103 ኪሎ ሜትር ተሪፎሎ ቢኒያም ፓላቶን ይዘሎ ሃሊሞን ዘሎ ናይ 12 ሰከንድ እዩ ግን እንዳጽበቦ ሆድ ስለዘለው ኢንተር ሚዲየት ስፕሪንት ንቦላታ ሁሉም ተአሃሂቦም ዝገብሩ እዮም ዝመስሉ ጽቡቅ ዓደን ቢኒያም ጽቡቅ ዓደን ቢኒያም ኢልኩም ጻሓፍ ለያ ኮመንት
Another beautiful attack coming up from Wout van Aert. By the looks of things, yeah, that was Tish Benoit. It was on the front. But yeah, Movistar clearly up for this. Yico Alula with the team that instigated the initial attack, because just allow UAE team members in the front to drag Pogacar to the bottom of the climb to go there and win the stage today. I'm so glad that Yico Alula and Movistar are doing this, because they want to win the stage.
Yeah, we want to see a bike race. Yeah, everybody wants to see a bike race. So, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, Dan Martin actually being quite vocal about that tradition or that habit of putting a block on at the front of the peloton when they've decided that a 1, 2, 3 rider group has gone clear, and the team of the overall race leader or the favourites or whatever will just literally put a block at the front of the peloton on a narrow road, and that it's sort of
it's dangerous. I've seen that happen, and I've seen people blatantly block, and that's something that they should be not allowed to do. The UCI should look at that, and if you're blatantly moving across, it's like you're getting yellow cards and sprints and things like that. You're intimidating and blocking someone from getting past. Right? It's always happened in cycling when they block the road like that. If you do that intentionally, there should be a sanction, and I would go even further. I would sanction Niels Pollard for doing that today.
Well, he can be sanctioned for intimidatory tactics or for saying things so only he and the riders that received it know exactly what was said there. But certainly, I think they might have looked at. Do you think the level of sophisticated understanding of these nuanced situations and the ability to take the evidence and then apply a penalty after, does it actually exist amongst the UCI College of Commissars? Is there enough detailed evidence and the ability to sort of put it all together and issue a sanction? Is that there? You know,
I'm not too sure. I'm quite up to speed with a lot of the kind of UCI rules, but it comes down to personal discretion of the commissaires that are here, and I keep on saying that a lot of them haven't been in a bike race and probably doesn't under. I looked a couple of days ago when there was panic after the crash, and you've got the Visma Lisa bike car clearly dragging 3 riders up, including Vingegaard. But you don't do that. They put themselves right. They weren't bringing these 2 groups back together. Oh, I know there was a crash, but there was blatant. Even the bottle that they gave Vingegaard, and he took the bottle and then threw it away. There's a lot of these things happening, and it's very difficult to sanction everything. It's down to the eyes of the referees. But I'm so glad that teams are now getting involved and not making it just a parade for UAE for this stage. They're getting involved here. Unfortunately for Tudor Pro Cycling, they 2 riders, but I said it right from the start, they're never going to go to the finish anyway.
Not just 3.
It needs a bigger group, and they need to, in the next 80 kilometres, get 5 minutes at least.
You got one of those situations where it's down to 5 seconds and suddenly there's a big stall at the front of the peloton as everyone thinks everyone else is going to be the one to do the final push to close it down, and instead we've got this situation with the Visma Lisa bike squad trying to fire 1, 2. I was wondering, would we see Victor Campenaerts in the time trial helmet today, given that it's a very, very hot day in this part of of the Alpine region. Racing from Aero and making our way through the Vaucluse. Wine country, by the way. We'll be hearing from Jonathan Harris-Bass in a little while. Forward to hearing if he's got a nice glass of Chardonnay de Pape to quench the thirst as we head towards that very place. Chardonnay de Pape is going to be the intermediate sprint point in about 40 kilometres from now. It's going to be a lot less than an hour at this kind of pace and progression.
The three riders have managed to stay in front, but they've been joined by a big group. Is that Alaphilippe coming across at the back? Look, it's shut off at the front of the peloton now. This is a sizable group now. Van Wilder is there for Soudal, Abrahamson as well. So if this can come together, then this large group has got legs.
No Milan though, not too much Little Trek evidence at the front. That won't be a good situation for them. The intermediate sprint looms ever closer.
Yeah, these guys not thinking about the sprint, but more trying to stay in the way. Tom Squeens, the Latvian champion, is there, so they are pushing it out at the front here. They are trying. They've realised now. And
would Squeens ride?
Yeah, I think he would.
كلرات تغطاتلكي رايس سبسكرايب እናገበርኩም ዘለኩም ቤቶኻ ኣብ ኮመንት ጻሓፉልና ሞ ኸነ ማሓሾ በቃታ ሃዲማ ዝነበረት ጉጅለ ዳርጋ 12 ሰከንድ ዳርጋ ተበሊዓ በቃ ኣብ ኮመንት ጽቡቕ ንቢንያም ግርማ ኢልኩም ጥራይ ጻሓፉለይ
hats off to Jacob Lula and Movistar, because they were the two teams that really kind of instigated it and were just like, they almost like stick the two fingers up to UAE Team Emirates, and it was very poor in my book what Niels Pollitt did there.
Interesting to hear if there's any comeback from that.
But even for me as an ex-manager, I wouldn't like to see one of my riders do that.
Tom Squeens is the Latvian champion. He's about 5th or 6th in line at the moment. Is he so? As far as we can tell.
This is what I'm saying.
UAE there too.
They might be happy at this situation. Get one of the climbers in here in a big group, and they'll be happy with that situation.
That's a quick step there. Hopes and dreams of glory evaporating somewhat with the departure of Remco Evenepoel a few days ago. No sign of the green jersey in here. Victor Kampenaerts is coming as well. Second stage in succession for the Belgian star, who's climbed very, very well, in fairness, for a rider with a reputation as a time trialist and ruler maybe, and he's also a pretty useful climber, and he's rolling to that. He was semi-crushed afterwards, wasn't he? And Wout van Aert, to finish third on the stage, came up to express his condolences to his teammate afterwards, as if to say, look, well done, it was a really good try. And Kampenaerts was almost inconsolable at that moment. He really, really desperately wanted the stage.
Oh, of course he did. Aaron Burrows in this group as well for Cofidis. Did I see a glimpse of Michael Woods? A couple of climbers in here, decent climbers as well. They need to just keep on pushing on, because they do have a chance. I know it's only small, and there's another group. It's just the front of the peloton now with the Total Energies just dragging. See, this is what I was saying before. Why just sit in the front of the peloton and drag all the rest up? Like
بني مزا حجة هادي ما زال خليت جروبهم مسا هادي مدة. تبغى عندكم تعاودا بينا هاسي سلوز بالكان نخا بيني أمول كونديشن يزلو كانت يعني محجز أبياتهم ده كابزن لعل كونديشن يلا تبغى كونديشن يزلو. أجيكن تبغى كان دي أنا حتى واحد حيداقين. نبيني بتعمل زوات أنا قال. معناته نيجان تارجف سلزي يقولوا نص بقولكوا سواي. لازم نيجان فوز عايشين.
Overall, is certainly going to excite the interest of the likes of Carlos Rodriguez, Enos Grenadiers, and others.
There's another group trying to come across here, though. It might ultimately become too big, Declan. It's only got 24 seconds, but I think they have legs. Chris Nyland's here at the front for Israel Premier Tech, and this could have legs. Enric Mas, so there's a few good climbers that are in here. Another few riders trying to come across, but yeah, Marc Soler has made it, and that says to me that few team members might be okay with this situation.
Well, let's work out exactly who's in this move as they start to make a little bit of inroads, or at least they started to put a bit of daylight between themselves and the main peloton behind. Tadej Pogacar cruising along the wheels.
They're not helping each other here. I'll just run through the Healy, Maas, Milberger, Morrison, Van Wilder, Campanat, Soler, Einkorn, Velasco, Benitz, Woods, Kostyo, Nylund, Sivakov, Van Moor, Abrahamsen, Haller, Swinch, Aramburu, Hirschi, Barret, Trentin, Bittner, and Drisners. I don't think it is Sivakov. That possibly might be in there, but they're happy with the situation. But just looking at that, Ineos Grenadiers thinking now that they've got that information that Ben Healy is. Why?
Well, because they don't want Ben Healy to move ahead of Carlos Rodriguez in general classification. He's 4 or 5 minutes at the bottom of the last.
Why right at the front? Why not just put a rider or 2 riders in this group?
Because Ben Healy will continue to ride, and they might get a free ride to the bottom of the hill, but he'll still have an advantage and a potential
ሚላን
to
አታዓባይ ጉጅለ ኣሎ
unless
ቢኒ
Rodriguez goes across.
ማእኸሊት ዘላ ጉጅለ እዩ ዘሎ ጆናታን ሚላን ምስ ተዓባይ ጉጅለ እዩ ዘሎ ብድሕሪት እዩ ዘሎ
Right. Why not just get Rodriguez in a wheel and try and fire him across the gap?
Intermarché Wanty squad, rumours of merging with the Lotto team at the end of this season. I wonder what equipment they'll end up with. That's what they've got at the moment. Touching some tyres. And look at this, Lenny Martinez, he kind of struggled to add to his mountain points total today.
I said one thing the other day to you. When you're in a general classification, you know who's round about you. You have a look behind you, and you know Ben Healy should have known the other day there that Rodriguez. You know, you look behind you.
He should have. I mean, because he was to the front of the peloton when Rodriguez went, wasn't he? And he probably ought to have.
So Rodriguez is like he's got Ben Healy behind him. So surely he's got 1 or 2 riders he has to kind of watch if he wants to protect his place in general classification. It's clear that is the case. So why let one of the riders that's just 1 position behind you in the top 10 go down? It's beggars belief sometimes when I look at these situations.
It's the sheer intensity of the racing. I mean, we have to, I suppose, acknowledge that.
ቦላታ ላ ሕጂ ናይ ኢንተርኔት ብላ ማእኸል ሓንቲ ቦላታ ብድሕሪት ዘሎ እቲ ናይ መወዳእታ ግን ናይ በዓል ቦካቻ ገለመለ ብክስታይዱ
immense stress, and it is very, very fast.
Yeah, I totally understand that, but just if Rodriguez is there, get him involved with some of the riders that are trying to get across there. Or just get him on the wheel and try and jump across yourself instead of dragging a whole bunch. Because again, I'll go back to that thing I've been saying right from the start of the stage. You're just helping UAE Emirates. You're fighting for a position in the top 10. You're fighting against, and ultimately you're helping UAE Emirates to control this race.
Most of the climbing, of course, is in the final 15.5 kilometres of this stage, but that doesn't mean there aren't a few drags along the way that offer an opportunity. Louis Barret has decided that the level of cooperation in that group is just not enough. That's to 23 seconds, and it looks like we need a recomposition of the lead group in order to potentially have a decent chance of lasting out front for any real amount of time. Barret. Intermarché Wanty squad, another team looking for something a little bit special. They've struggled a little bit. Beniam Girmay has not been able to deliver so far, albeit they have a shot tomorrow. Final nailed-on sprint opportunity of Tour de France 2025 is coming up. Peloton at the moment seem happy and content enough to allow this one to develop out front. Still not quite a nailed-on certain situation, but Einkorn here on the front has got big watts. He'll drive it on the front with Trentin trying to do a double whammy with
ኣብ
Julian
46
Alaphilippe. Does Alaphilippe want to
ኣላ
go
ወላታ
solo here? Is
እቲ
this the right
ዝገርም
move?
ግን ዓባይ ጉጅለ ነዛ ሃዲማ ዘላ
No, but he'll do it anyway.
ፈንያታ እያ ዘላ ግን ካብ
I
ሕጂ
think what he's thinking is
30
he's
ኪሎ
not
ሜትር
he's
ስለ
not
ዘለዉ
always too big.
ንዕግም
They've tried so
ምትእትዮም
hard
ዝኾኑ
in this stage so far to get riders in front, and Alaphilippe shown a couple of days ago that he's starting to come good in this race, and you know he's another rider that would love to win this stage today. Looks as if it's Milberg that has come up to join them for Movistar. So I just that sense when you're in the race that this group is too big and you want a kind of counter attack to go, and that's what they're doing. There must be how many here? About 35.
35, yeah. One man who is in there is Timon Aronsman, of course, the winner of stage 14 to Super Bagnier. He's to infiltrate this one. Presumably he'll get a free ride or as free a ride as possible. But just a sense that the peloton was going to give this group a little bit of rope. They've stalled a bit. Everybody's presumably feeling the effects of a really, really intense first hour and a bit of racing. So group out front has moved a minute clear. The peloton seem content at the moment, and quite the scrap to get the composition of that group organised ahead. Crosswind is not insignificant here. I wonder how much that's playing into the effects of this intense effort as the peloton. Plenty of pink jerseys in evidence at the front because Ben Healy has made it up front, so he'll be feeling good about that. Julian Alaphilippe trying to further change the composition of that group, and Geraint Thomas happy enough and content enough behind.
Julien, ça passe une belle journée de repos?
Oui, très belle journée de repos. J'ai été au coiffeur.
Ah bon?
Ouais, j'ai vraiment profité. Voilà, motivé pour cette dernière partie de Tour de France.
Et l'épaule après la tombée, c'est bien?
C'est jamais bien après une chute.
So Julian, how was the rest day? Well, very nice rest day. I went to the hairdresser. Oh, really? Yes, I really enjoyed it. I'm motivated for the final part of this Tour de France. How's the shoulder after your crash? Never good after a crash. It's painful, but I can race, so I'm happy to continue being on the tour. Does the radio work well today? Well, I hope so, yes. We're motivated. We need to pay attention if a big group leaves the bunch. We know that Pogacar might want to take the stage, and let's see how it goes.
Et c'est important, on a joué toujours essayer.
It's important to always try, like when they let the rider from Ineos win. Do you have a chance today?
Qui Ineos a gagné, so c'est possible une chance aujourd'hui?
Oui, il faut toujours rester concentré. Si une belle échappée part, il faut.
Well, we always need to be focused. If a big breakaway leaves, we need to be present. We've
des bonnes jambes, qu'il est en grande
seen
condition.
that Michael Store has good legs and that he was in good shape during the Tourmalet stage. UAE was controlling to win the stage, and at the last minute they decided to let the break go with Aronsman, who was very strong. Well, that proves that you need to try every day and to be at the front. Abandonments too is a very special place. It's a mythical stage of the Tour de France. It'll be great. There'll be a lot of fans, so it'll be nice.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, sore shoulder, but it's not preventing Julian Alaphilippe from becoming amongst the most prominent racers in this Tour de France over the last couple of days. Out front, and at last a leisurely promenade through the avenue.
ሕጂ ጽቡቕ ፓላቶን ክትውጥር ጀሚራ ስለ ዘላ
just as I said it.
ዓባይ ጉጅለ ክትውጥር ጀሚራ ስለ ዘላ ዳዴቪድ ናቶት ከይዳ
50 seconds. Jonas Rickard has launched to try and bridge the gap. It's not going to be the work of a moment, and the Abis Koenig squad trying to find something from this particular stage. They've got Caden Groves for sprinting tomorrow. Lost Matthew van der Poel, of course. Abis De Koenig riders counter-attacking to try and race across what's almost a 2-minute gulf now to the group up front. And Brian, we've got a completely different bike race now than we had, 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit happy with that situation.
Me too.
It didn't just kind of give up. So again, I go back to say, well done, Jaco Lula. I don't know if they managed to get such. Surely they should have had someone in there. I'm just kind of looking through the riders that are there. As Jaco, I don't know if they have. That's the problem. Jaco Lula with the team with Schmidt and Clark that kind of instigated the attacking, so it doesn't look as if they've got a rider in there. And then Movistar have come up though. They've got Enric Mas and Milberg are in this group. So yeah, there's a lot of good riders in here. I'll just briefly go through them again. Healy, Arnsman, Mas, Milberger, Morrison, Van Wilder, Campenarts, Garcia Perner, Soler, Encon, Velasco, Alaphilippe, Benut, Woods, Burgado, Betrago, Valentin Paripanta, Leknesson, Kostio, Nyland, Sivikov, Van Moor, Abraham, Adam Burrow, Hershey, Barre, Wright, Russo, Trentin, Bittner, and Drusners.
ፓቼ እናገበርኩም ላይክ ማለት እዩ ብትግርኛ ፓቼ እናገበርኩም ሰብስክራይብ እናገበርኩም ሓድሽ ናይ ስፖርት ቻናል እዩ ኣተባብዑና ኩሉ ግዜ ኩዕሾ እዚ ኸናምፅእ ተዳሊና ኣለና ካብኹም ንልዮም ትህባዕ ጥራይ
Mark Soler has also managed to infiltrate it. He had a free pass representing the overall race leading team of Tadej Pogacar, Spanish climber, to relive old glories and potentially deliver a second successive stage victory. A third successive stage victory. No, it's the second successive.
Being in the Cajon Milan, what's it? It's a big opportunity.
Milan hopping mad, and naturally enough, he's going to bring Biniam Girmay with him. Girmay will probably give him a turn here. They'll work together. It's unusual to see a couple of sprinters, but they've missed the boat a little bit, and if he wants those sprint points,
يدفع قدفه نسي يدفعهم لحرات سرح كنده يجي له نسو خوفي له خير كان طيب كان عدل لي بكاس لو زلو بينا حجي كودكم موت رايد له
castles, chateau in abundance.
بينا عباي بيجي لها ديمونا بسيط حوس له
into Vaucluse.
درجة قريب ولا حواس قريب ولا مستا هذه ما زال بجلنا.
Vaucluse in the Alps specifically. It's hot and heavy in this part of France. The racing not lacking in intensity. The temperature is manageable. We've seen, I mean, it's a bit of a heat wave in France over the last couple of few days, in the last week, but not quite getting up to the sort of 40-degree scorchers that we've seen in recent times. Still, mercury nudging 30 degrees Celsius. And up on that mountain, it's a really exposed mountain, isn't it?
Jonathan Milan, كون لعب بعات هاليو هون ديكونه.
They started knocking down trees in the 12th century to make furniture and also that's why it is they see the pictures from above. They think it's got snow in July, anything but.
Well, Niels Pollard going to work now, and the situation they've got is they've got two decent climate. This was the scenario that I mentioned at the start. For the breakaway to have any success, it had to be sizable, and I think UAE Team Emirates having one of their climbing types, where they've got two, arguably they've got Sivikov and of course Mark Soler in this group in front. So it does have a chance, but they have to gain more time than 2.5 minutes. I think nearer 5 minutes gives them a chance. And they've got, just over 50 odd kilometres to be able to do that. So they have to get their act together. They have to combine. They have to realise now that they're in a situation, okay, it's 34 riders in the breakaway, but they have to understand that they have got a chance of a stage, one of them anyway. Unfortunately, for no disrespect for Pavel Bittner, but potentially Picnic Post NL get the wrong rider in here because he's more of a kind of sprinter and with a.
Is it a folly wasting his energy? I mean, he's not in the hunt for the green jersey. No. He's got a big old opportunity tomorrow. Should he be sort of keeping his powder dry for that?
Well, he got involved with the racing there. If he can get an easy kind of ride and then just trickle up the Vault 2,
Milan
then
حقفل
he should be
له
okay.
Was this a folly? I mean, they're about to be retained by the peloton, but just a little bit of a
صباح
skirmish off the
عاجزين
mark for
خريطة بنا
Kamai and for
سبورت
Jonathan Miller.
فقرن
No,
إيران لم
they
يعمل
thought about it, but
of course
then
تعبي
he
بجلة
thought again,
تبقى
because 2.5
تنفس
minutes
لزلة
to go across was too much
نسوم
of an
حيلم
effort.
نخعقون
Especially
مستعبي
like you
بجلة
just
تسحبهم
mentioned, the
خالي
sprint
لم
stage
يمارسون من
tomorrow
يتوعب
into Valence,
يبتعني
and
يوتوا له
that would have been a big effort to do
سمارت
today,
ديسيجن بيوم بحكي
or to even try and get to the front and gain some points. But I think there's pressure on Jonathan Milan definitely to try and gain some points. But on the flip side now, if the breakaway is successful, then they'll sweep up most of the points at the top of the climb.
Let's hear from Tom and Aronsman. Won a couple of days ago. He's in the break right now.
And what's going to be the plan for the team today? It looks like it's going to be very difficult for a breakaway to stay away, but you showed the other day that it's still possible.
Yeah, for sure, it's still possible, but the stage I won was completely different. It was more on force and the legs, and it's harder to control a breakaway uphill if you have the legs, but on the flat it's much more difficult. So it just depends on what the GC teams will do, and we will just see in the first kilometers of the stage what the intentions are, and then make a decision.
So it's almost today where you just have to read the race and rely on your instincts a little bit.
I think that's what you're doing every day, but today with a flat more running,
تناتو دكتور مسناي
Thanks very much. Have a good one.
Chris from دكتور
Time and Aronsman saying pretty much what we've
حيل
been saying.
مدام
It's
توصيله هيكون
an altogether different stage, but still taking his opportunity at front at the moment, particularly defending the interests as well of Carlos Rodriguez, with the presence of Ben Healy in this 34 rider move. Have we decided it's about 34?
I think this 35 now. I'm just trying to get through them all. I think Mick van Dijk is also in here, so I would say 34, 35. And they're starting to ride a little bit now. I really do think that Van Wilder could be a feature today. Of course, Soudal Quickstep missing Remco Evenepoel. So I really do think that the reason why Einkorn is putting a bit of pressure on here is, they possibly believe that this could be good for Ivan Van Wilder.
We've got two chasers from the Abis König squad. Have actually got themselves to within 47 seconds, which is a pretty good ride. But it would be very, very impressive, to say the least, if they manage to make it over to a group of 35 riders. Even if they're not all riding, even if it's not total cooperation, there's still plenty of them making an effort on the front. And at least at the moment, Pascal Einkorn of the Soudal Quickstep squad. He's frantically trying to open up the gap. Van Dijk there as well, and Victor Kampenaerts, and poor old Niels Pollitt. We call him poor old Niels Pollitt. He was grumpy earlier on. Didn't want to see too many people attacking. Eventually they did, and eventually the inevitable happened, and he's set to work to control the group out front. He knows that he'll be losing time to him for a while, but he'll continue to ride at a very, very solid and demanding tempo. That's the work that he does.
Well, he's been forced into doing a little bit more work now than he really kind of wanted to do. They were in a perfect situation. And like I said at the time, there must be a lot of teams not happy with this situation. Unfortunately for Chico Lula, they were one of those teams, and they tried to do something, but unfortunately they haven't got anybody in this 35-man group.
It's up to 2:48, stretching. 80 kilometres left of this 16th stage. We're back racing after the rest day, and it's like the last 2 weeks didn't happen at all, the way that they're showing the amount of energy. A brief moment of tailwind for this group to try and hold what they have. The two pursuers still making inroads as Dreisner's is working hard. Very impressive work, I have to say, from the Tudor riders, having been out front all day, and then they kind of stayed at the front when the split happened, and that's textbook stuff, isn't it? Really impressive performance from Mark O'Hara. I do believe that his team, that I did see his teammate Mark Hershey among the riders. Yeah, Mark Hershey there as well. So both of the two riders that were up the road for the Tudor Pro Cycling squad, they had a gap well over a minute at one stage. That paired back managed to make it into the big group out front now, up to 3 minutes ahead. So Kevin Vokanat riding along the wheels. Okay, B&B Hotel squad are very much involved. And they've got Ewan Custio up front as well, represented in that move. He's been quite ambitious, it has to be said, in recent stages. And they're within 20 kilometres of this intermediate sprint now. Not sure if Jonathan Harris-Bass has managed to join us. Are you there, Jonathan? I'm not sure what part of France we are for wine, but I'm pretty sure it's a pretty good one. I'll be hearing from Jonathan very shortly, but he's just selecting the right bottle. Annie Van Poppel and the Rebel Boar Hansgrohe squad just riding in the wake of a couple of representatives of this Melissa bike, and naturally enough, it's just a solo contribution here from the UAE Team Emirates team. They are represented up front.
ክቡራት ተኸታተልቲ ሳብስክራይብ ኣይትርሱ።
Castles abound. The Chateau de Castellan, 12th century construction, around 1125 to be precise. Sabran family. Well, they'd live forever, I suppose, but well, their power collapsed during the King of France's crusade against the Albigensians. Things have settled down a little bit now as we consider time announcements presence. It looks, I mean, I think they're actually going to make it across. This is a fabulous effort, you'd have to say, from Jonas Rickert.
He likes a two up, doesn't he, Jonas?
Yeah, himself and Matthew van der Poel out front forever. Verstringen's fine climber. Within half a minute now, so it's got to be absolutely maximum effort. And Jonas Rickert, most combative rider, he kidded with Matthew van der Poel that he quite liked the idea of going to a Tour de France podium. So Matthew van der Poel said,
ريلا حميجي روتيتو قاب كلا أجزين نقمت مرحيو يخيل له.
Until the last 600-700 meters of the stage, at least van der Poel it was that lasted longest. But Rickert got his due reward and got his trip to the podium to collect his most combative awards. I wonder if potentially he's on for another one of those today, but I think this is very much a push to try and get Verstringen in there, who's certainly been a...
It just goes to show you that little effort when you thought, well, they're never going to get across. They have. Almost anyway, I think they will make it up, because they'll get in the cars and they'll get up there. But this is what I was saying before about if they know that Ben Healy's in there in his Grenadiers, okay, but that was
they could have fired Carlos Rodriguez across,
possibly,
Those little drags kind of feel like mountains, but there you go. You mentioned the cars available.
pulled a few of them out.
Yeah, it's not a huge cavalcade there, is it? Like you say, they probably will pull a couple of them out, but it is down to within a half a minute, maybe even a little bit less than that. 350 meters, well, you can see it, and bit and lump here, really. Rickard is doing most of the work here. Verstringen is going to try and save as much energy as possible. This is great teamwork because Verstringen has been climbing really well. I think we have Jonathan Harris pass now. Jonathan, you've been watching with great interest, and it's a fascinating stage of about 3 different elements at this point. We had loads of attacks, nothing happening. Then we had a group of 3 out front for a while. Then they were chased down. We've seen a very grumpy Niels Pollitt trying to stop everyone from attacking. That failed miserably, and now he's on the front doing the chasing.
Yeah, it's fascinating the dynamic between UAE and Visma that sort of rumbled on throughout this tour. And Niels Pollitt was getting really upset today. And Visma were just sort of, well, we've got to try everything we can, I guess. And if that involves attacking now and attacking and making the pace really, really hard, testing out, seeing who's struggling after a rest day. Quite often riders do find it hard sometimes after a rest day to get back into the groove. We've definitely seen that in the shape of poor Thomas Gachina, who was. We saw a picture of him about half an hour, 45 minutes ago, after he'd been back to the medical car to get something for obviously an ailment, and he's really, really been struggling, and
very emotional, wasn't he?
And he looked as though he was in tears. I haven't seen. Have we had any form of confirmation as to whether he's abandoned or not?
No, absolutely, certainly haven't heard that.
No,
sincerely hope he is going to be last. Yeah, but he's definitely heading for a long, long solo day by the looks of things at that moment, and yeah, could be a tough old one for a cashing yard of the dynamic squad. Meanwhile, our duo, intrepid duo, you'd have to say, counter-attacking effort from De Koning. Obviously, De Koning, and I thought it was going to be a really tough. Oh, nice grab. Obviously, just about hang on. Picked out the old Raymond Poulidor, inspired gilet of his team helper at the side of the road. Did have another jersey, didn't they? They had another Gan Mercier style Raymond Poulidor tribute jersey that they the Abis De Koning squad presented a couple of days ago. Matthew van der Poel, of course, looking to head towards Ventoux, where his grandfather, Ramon Poulidor Pupu, to achieve success back in 1965, fully 60 years ago. But unfortunately for Matthew van der Poel, he's been called ashore, victim of the illness. And also, unfortunately, somewhat for Jonathan Milan, not able to contest for the intermediate sprint points today. He's got an advantage of 28 points over Tadej Pogacar. He's clearly not, the way things are playing out, going to score points at that intermediate sprint. Not only that, but there are fully 30 points on offer at the top of Mont Ventoux. Ordinarily, the really big mountain days tend to have a slightly fewer points towards the points classification. But that's not the case with this particular one. Let's hear from Victorious.
Remember, after the sprint, that we go to open area and that the wind will pick up. So we have to make sure that we are in good position there. For the moment, just remember to eat and drink.
Yeah, it's good advice to the Bahrain Victorious riders at front, and indeed to everyone in the peloton. Buitrago is a fine climber, and he's in that lead group at the moment, Santiago Buitrago. But the speed has been absolutely flat out today, Jonathan, and these riders need to be mindful of what the crosswinds. We're going to merge from the trees when we make our way through Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and after that intermediate sprint, and it's pretty much a crosswind all day.
Yeah, it's those conditions. We were chatting to Luke Rowe about them earlier on, and he was saying how he has just horrible memories of going up the Mont Ventoux. In fact, the last time he went up Mont Ventoux back in 2021, he was timed out because he ended up missing the time cut, which was 52 minutes. And he was only able to get home in 54 minutes. So he just said he absolutely loathed it. And he said it's just how hard the climb is. It's not just the fact that there are crosswinds. It's not just the fact that the climb itself is measured as over 15 kilometres, and that you keep on looking up and you can see the top and it never seems to get closer. But it's also the fact that actually it's really, really tough in the 20-kilometre run-in to the climb itself. So there's so many elements about today's stage which make it that much more challenging than potentially any other stage on this year's tour. And reading Jeremy Whitten's written a really, really good book about Ventoux, and I remember reading it down in the Cevennes over a decade ago, and it was just the notes that he made about the interviews with riders about what the atmosphere was like in the peloton on a day when you're approaching Ventoux, and it was that it's silent. You can actually hear the insects, whereas ordinarily you can't because you're chatting or you're having there's a little bit of, I mean, not with modern day cycling, perhaps less conversation going on because they're just racing so hard all the time, but you can sense this sort of atmosphere of foreboding, and it also comes from the fact that you can see the mountain from such a long way away as you approach it.
It dominates the skyline, doesn't it? It really is the only mountain out front. Michael Woods knows it well. He's looking forward today. He'll fancy a bit. He's in the group out front as well.
Mike, you feeling relaxed and fresh as you can after the rest day?
Yeah, definitely. It was a great rest day. Rest days are always a lot more occupied than people think. They're quite busy, but as the day progressed, I just felt my energy coming back. And this morning, was singing on the bus and feeling good. So yeah, energy's back.
Good to hear. Now you've been your vlog, really interesting. Your analysis of the race and modern day racing. Can you give us your take on how do you think today is going to evolve? If any breakaway has a chance.
Thanks for reading it.
I love it. It's great.
Oh, thanks, mate. Thanks. I'm really enjoying writing it. It's it's a nice way to kind of process all the thoughts that you have in a race. You have so many thoughts after a race that it's nice to just put them on paper and then reflect on them after. But in terms of today, I think it's going to be hard to look past Pogačar, UAE controlling. I looked through the Velo Viewer and Google Street Maps today, and there's no real places where a defining breakaway can really get away. Very easy to control, but I'm gonna try and get in that breakaway, and hopefully we won't be on a fool's errand. But I think you need at least 5 minutes at the base of the climb on today for this one for the win.
Well, it might be a fool's errand, but he's decided to go on it. And he's in that group out front at the moment, 3:34. He reckons they need 5 minutes. They're on the way to it, and two chasers behind, continuing to close the gap. It's a really, really impressive effort so far from our two counter-attackers, Jonas Rigaert and his compatriot, his Belgian compatriot, Miel Verstringen from the Abis squad, down to round about the 24-second mark, but not quite just there yet, and they've got to find the time to get on board with those 34 riders out front. Meanwhile, the peloton behind towed along the somewhat grumpy Niels Pollux of the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad, and his teammate Tadej Pogačar in yellow, tracking along in the first 30 or 40 riders or so. Heading towards Châteauneuf-du-Pape, I presume that you've gone for a glass of Châteauneuf-du-Pape today?
Well, actually, the reason I haven't, Declan, is because Châteauneuf-du-Pape is, I find, prohibitively expensive.
What if you find it expensive?
Yeah,
what chance of the rest?
Exactly. What chance does anyone else have? I went for I think there's a particularly lovely Côte d'Arène that Paul Jabelet and Abis do, which is called Parallèle 45, which is one of my favourites. I just love the red wines from the Rhone. I think they're absolutely fantastic, and they take me back sort of my earliest memories of going to France, and whenever my dad was ordering wine, that he would go for either the Vin de Table or the Côte d'Arène, whichever essentially was cheapest, and he said you never have a miss with a Côte d'Arène. It's one of the most reliable wines. Just back to the site, we take a look here at Tudor pushing on. Gilles Alaphilippe looks very up for it today.
He's always animated, in fairness to him, isn't he? I mean, he's always got he's throwing shapes left and right, always moving his shoulders, his arms, his head. I mean, he's always at something. He's an extraordinary man to watch.
Yeah, I just think even more remarkable bouncing back from the disappointment of the other day, which dislocating your shoulder, losing your radio, thinking you've potentially won the stage. I mean, that is quite a lot to get over. But thankfully, he's had a rest day to get over it. He's bouncing back today, Lulu, which is great to see. And the French crowd will love that. I just wonder, what have you and Brian made of the performance of Lidl Trek and Jonathan Milan and his failure to be up here contesting the sprint points?
It's been a topic of discussion pretty much all day. I mean, he was there on the bumper of the race director's car when the flag came in to send them on their way, and then was kind of anonymous when the next attacks went. You know, he was in the first one, I think, and then didn't miss a whole lot of the rest of them, and then missed out on the big one. Did have a sort of a almost half-hearted effort to try and ride across with Biniam Girmay, but at that point it was a folly, really. They'd left them go too far up the road. Having said that, our two chasers, not quite on just yet, but it looks like they're going to get across. But yeah, I mean, basically, Brian was certainly suggesting that at this point, Jonathan Milan should probably pull the plug, think about the fact that it's a nailed-on sprint tomorrow, because if Tadej Pogacar wins today's stage, he will take the lead of that points classification, and well, it's quite the scrap. And then more opportunities for Pogacar through the next few days. We've got the summer finish at Col de la Loze, another revenge target, you would imagine, for Tadej Pogacar. You've got La Plagne the following day as well, and then maybe, just maybe, the final Champs-Élysées stage. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it's all going swimmingly at that point for Tadej Pogacar. They might just be minded to try and win again. So plenty of points on offer for the man in the yellow jersey at the moment. Jonathan Milan certainly needs to be taking them at the intermediate sprints. Not going to happen for him today. They're within 6.7 kilometres of that at the moment. So he's got to think about that big sprint tomorrow, the big sprinters stage. And well, all on again, looking to further split this group of 34 riders. Matteo Trentin, the former European champion, one of 4 riders from the Tudor Pro Cycling squad that have infiltrated the break with, as you mentioned, Julian Alaphilippe, the irrepressible Julian Alaphilippe, has had a terrific day. And that, again, that was at the topic of our conversation earlier on, was just, you know, that there shouldn't be too much disappointment. He was just pre-celebrating. I mean, the victory that seems inevitably going to come his way at some stage.
Yeah, exactly. He is just... He's someone who, there was that brilliant year where he was in yellow, and the French public suddenly started to have this false hope that perhaps he could win the yellow jersey, and then finally got up into the mountains. The staged a team that didn't really ever end, where Egan Bernal took over at that particular Tour de France, and yeah, that was. But he's been there or thereabouts, and wonderful to watch. I was looking at the parkour and just going, I cannot believe that today is our
ክቡራት ተኸታተልትና ብዙሓት ሰባት መታን ክባፅሓልና ላይክ ሳብስክራይብ እናገበርኩም ሳብስክራይብ ኣመልካቲቶ ጥራይ ተድልያ ሓንቲ ጥዎ ክልቲአን ኣብሉ እሞ.
And we didn't have one until, what was it, stage 12 or something? So it's the latest that the all category climbs arrived in the Tour de France for ages, and then it's almost non-stop then to the end of the Tour. A lot of talk about this is so far they on target to be the fastest ever Tour de France. The average speed sitting at 43.95 kilometres per hour average through to this point, and fastest ever Tour de France is 2022 at 42.1. But of course, we've got all of these climbs to come, and that's going to pull down the average. And yeah, I think it's to assume it will be the fastest ever is unreasonable, because this is a stunningly difficult final week.
It's almost more like a Giro d'Italia with how hard it is in the final week.
Inside 5 to that intermediate sprint, we've got our counter. And at the moment, it's the former world champion Julian Alaphilippe. He's the moments recorded a little earlier on where clearly they were hatching a plan. There's no cooperation. Matteo, we've got to do something. And Trentin bought in and very quickly forced a split. They've taken some really strong riders with them, including Pietraga. Aronsman in there as well. I see Mass. The Rhone River rises in Switzerland. rises in the Foucault Glacier, I believe. Spills down into France.
Absolutely right. It's got so many tributaries to the Rhone that are well-known rivers down in France, the Ardèche, Isère, Drôme, Aigle, Uvez, Durance, and the Gard that we've been going along in the Gard region. Tim Wellens currently doing the pulling along. Lots of people, I think, thought that Wellens would do a lot of work today because he's pretty good on the flat, be able to lead Pogacar along to the base of the climb of Mont Ventoux. Nils Pollitt, as ever, is the man who's doing the majority of the cart horse work.
Ben Healy, probably the most significant rider that's not in that front group at the moment, as that's the breakaway group of 34, just a little bit big and unwieldy, is piling on the coal to try and race clear. Incorn, big engine, helped to form that break. Fred Wright's made it in for Bahrain Victorious. Great effort from him. Aronsman, Alaphilippe, Trenton, we've seen. Enric Mas on a day where Movistar squad have shown themselves to be very motivated. Velasco's having a terrific season for the Astana squad. He'll be fired up for this. This is his opportunity. We missed anyone. I think that's pretty much the... Oh, Abrahamsen. Yeah, already a stage winner. Jonas Abrahamsen has helped to form the split here, and Ben Healy finding himself about 18-20 seconds behind. He'll climb well when they arrive onto the Mont Ventoux, but what sort of an advantage is he going to have over the main peloton? What sort of a disadvantage potentially to the riders in front? And the peloton going about that fast today. Big trains are steaming along today. Not that that's a steam train. Chuff. I don't think. Quite as quick as some that we've seen. Incorn has been spat out of this one. Not surprised, really. He's looked really, really strong. And we did hear the Bahrain Victorious team car suggesting that everyone needed to be mindful of the potential for crosswind splits. And we see the way the peloton is forming here into sort of semi-echelon formation. The racing isn't on just yet, but I think everyone is going to suddenly become a little bit cautious or aware of the potential that can almost itself create the circumstances necessary for a split. Meanwhile, all hands to the pump, and this is not about the ride. It seems almost wrong, doesn't it, to have a sprint in Châteauneuf-du-Pape? They should probably almost have a compulsory stop there rather than racing through it with unseemly haste.
But would you want to get back onto your bike and continue up Mont Ventoux if you just had a little lunch stop in Châteauneuf-du-Pape?
Oh, park it up. I mean, that'd be part of the mental endurance and the mental challenge of the Tour de France is if you put in a compulsory stop every day to take on the local fair and everybody had to stop for half an hour, it'd be fascinating to see how many would crack after about 5 days and just say, well, you know, I think I should stay here. That's what happens to me anyway, on a regular basis. It's 24 seconds for Ben Healy and friends. Fred Wright is involved in the day that Jonas Abrahamsen took the glory, and it's Abrahamsen that's most invested here to take the sprint points and the money that goes with it. Velasco has invested as well, maybe not believing in his climbing ability at the end of the day. Big crowd out as we track the back of the main peloton. This is the back to break, of course, in pursuit. Incorn pull back, clearly not happy that his man wasn't there. And it wasn't that he got dropped out of that group, he was instructed to go back. Ben Healy group now out to almost half a minute. Frustrating, really. Dennis Rickard and Verstringen managed to get on to the break, happy days, and then suddenly found that there'd been a split. And now they find themselves half a minute down again. Philip Van Wilder, of course, and Valentin Paré-Porter, two fine climbers. Pascal Encorn, huge engine, made it into this group now, has to use that engine to try and tow them back. Game on. And this will continue to increase the advantage of our Raiders out front over the main peloton. Michael Woods, who finds himself fighting a rearguard action in the first chase group, nonetheless, has over 4.5 minutes advantage over the yellow jersey group, and he's suggested
كل ጊዜ ስፖርት ኩዕሾ ገለመለ ንኸምፅ ተዳሊና ኣለና ካባኸም ንደድዮ ላይክ ሳብስክራይብ ሼር ምግባር ጥራይ ሳብስክራይብ ብምግባር ከተተባብዑና መቸም ከም ተተባብዑና ስርግጠኛ ኢና
pushing up towards what that might be.
Suddenly there's a little bit of, well, Niels Pollard tends to bear the evidence of his fabulous dental work throughout the day. He's not difficult to pick out in the peloton, is he? But this looks to me as if potentially going to be a slightly more arduous day. And Danny van Poppel up to the Dutch National Road Race Champion, and a rival, of course, with the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad. But maybe Florian Leibovitz feels that he'd like to explore his potential to win the stage today. So he just goes up and gives a bottle to his to a rival team, because at the moment they have collective needs, and that's to try and close down this group a little bit. Tailwind. Hold what you have. And there's the first update we have about Gashinyar, who we know in the past has had sort of gastrointestinal issues that have made it difficult to sort of absorb the vast amount of carbohydrates that riders need to take on throughout a race day. Indeed, you know, before and after as well, the race each day, in order to make it through 3 weeks of Tour de France. Not 100% sure what the issue is, but we think he may have a bit of illness of yet to be established. But clearly, he's 11.5 minutes down and still, 50. Well, it's more than that. It's a bit more than that. 58, almost 60 kilometres. More than 60 kilometres from his point of view to the end of the day. So it's about 45k to the bottom of the hill.
I think, Louis-Pierre Frilu, who was talking to the team car about Gashinyar, said that he's had a couple of days where he's had stomach issues, and that is the explanation of how he's feeling today. He definitely went back to the medical car looking to take something to settle himself, but there's been a lot of illness going through the peloton. Mathieu van der Poel not making the start line today because of pneumonia. There are different colds going through the peloton. It once again, it's sort of a reminder, isn't it, Declan, of just how hard it is as a sport and how exacting the Tour de France is.
It's an endurance event. I mean, it's not just what your watts per kilo is. It's not just the amount of total watts that you can produce. It's not just your drop-off rate across 3, 4, 5 hours of racing, but it's your ability to do it again and again and again, day after day after day. And it just becomes more and more wearying, and you can make too many assumptions about how easy it's going to be. Alexander Vlasov started quietly, seems to be coming into it a little bit, and the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad have ambitions today. Let's hear from him now.
Alexander Vlasov, how are you after that rest day? How did you all spend it at Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe?
Oh, it was a nice rest day. I was all day in the bed. I did just 1 hour ride, easy, and all day in the bed.
Tell me about today's stage. You've won the top of Mont Ventoux in the Mont Ventoux Challenge back in 2020. What can you tell us about this climb and how you have to race on it?
It's a very long climb, you know, it's 1 hour effort. First part is a bit steeper, but second part is like full open, full windy, especially today. So I know it's full headwind, so it will be difficult to make some gaps. But, you know, maybe I can give some advice to people how to do it. And yes, you just need to keep in mind that the second last part is also like really hard.
What advice have you given to Florian Leibovitz? Because you've got the experience, he doesn't have the experience on this climb. I mean, what have you told him?
I know it's always important to pace yourself and yeah, not to make stupid moves maybe in the beginning because it's a long climb.
What about this final 6 kilometres with the headwind? I mean, of course, it's going to be lined with fans, but nevertheless, do you think it's good to have a gap before you get to that part?
Logically, yes. If you had a gap before, you know, and the final part fully headwind, it's you know, you can maintain this. But if you stay on the wheel on the second part, it's like much easier, I think. So, not lose the wheel.
Don't lose the wheel. That's your advice to Florian Lubovitz. Very much. Best of luck today. Thanks, Alex.
Cheers, Alexander. That was interesting, and yeah, I mean, it was the take on there is to climb the fights, isn't it? It just becomes more and more horrific, and you know, the early parts when it's in amongst the shade of the trees, you emerge out into the stark open mountain, and then it's something that you touched on a little earlier, Jonathan. Is it doesn't have much in the way of hairpins. It more or less sort of meanders up, and you can see the top from a long way, and it just gets more and more demanding.
Well, this is the exact thing that's been passed on from the riders as we just take it. Yes, exactly. They could do with a little bit of renovation, by the looks of things.
There is the Chateau du Pape. Tell us a little bit about that story, because it was Pope John the 22nd, I think, was the particularly enthusiastic Pope from hereabouts that decided that wine was his go-to.
That's exactly right. And he just basically, because he sort of planted a load of vines in the area, and the wine then started to become famous throughout. I mean, British people, I think, have always had an association with Chateau du Pape. It might be just due to horse and horses, I don't know. But at the beginning of the 20th century, the wine growers, very good. In this area, they were really keen to defend their wines, which were gaining in renown, and they were one of the original AOCs. So that's the 15th of May 1936. The Appellation Decree was published, and Chateau du Pape became the first AOC wine in France. The vineyard itself covers 3,200 hectares, and that is all in this area of Chateau du Pape. Then you've got Bédaride, Côtes Orange and Sourgues, and it's just a particularly good wine. Emil Verstrigne, I saw down at the start today. I mean, they've had a brilliant day. Those riders from De Koning, making their way back into this group. Jonas Rickard, the other one. They worked so hard, but how demoralising, Declan, is it going to be that they've bridged across and now they've found out that the group up ahead's 55 seconds?
Yeah, but I mean, it's the strength of their response. I mean, absolutely. How demoralising was it when they lost, first of all, Jasper Philipsen to that injury on day 2, but then they bounced back with the victory from Mathieu van der Poel, and now Van der Poel is out as well. So, I mean, they're constantly bouncing back, and that sort of resilience that they've displayed by having a rider in almost everything. Still we're seeing Alaphilippe chatting away with Mario Trentin. They're pushing on now, up to almost a minute of an advantage, and well over 5 minutes clear of the peloton. This group are absolutely flying, and Aronsman, I think, may be going favourite for the stage honours, but it's a little bit early to call it just yet. But yes, the kind of quick step, a little bit frustrating that they find themselves now in the second group on the road, but how involved have they been in the race action, and how impressive a response it was. They haven't just come back into their box and just sort of give it up and then ride along in the wheels of the peloton. They've been involved in just about everything. No, it's just a sense that Abrahamson been pulled out the back there a little bit by Fred Wright, who just maybe not entirely content, especially as Abrahamson took the sprint so impressively. Everybody wants to try and get as free a ride as they possibly can. It's not the Tour de France way. As we see Pollitt on the front of the peloton, continuing to tow along. We're going to head away shortly, Jonathan. Care to predict the finale, or how do you think it's going to play out?
I'd say it's really tricky to call with that margin up at 5 minutes. I still, start of the day, I felt it's just it's made for Pogacar. It's the sort of climb he'll want to win. He'll want to win it in the yellow jersey. He'll want to tick it off. He knows that the Mont Ventoux is not in every single Tour de France. It's intermittently used, whereas a climb like Alpe d'Huez is likely to feature more. And I just feel that this is one that he wants. He's going to have to work really hard to get it. And I still wouldn't write off Jonas Vingegaard winning on a climb like today, or on a climb like tomorrow, or not tomorrow, in 2 days' time. We will wait and see. But I still think it's going to be Pog, unfortunately. Well, I say unfortunately, but I hope you know what I mean by that. It's just as in I feel the sharing out of stage wins on this particular Tour de France hasn't really managed to get to a height, and it would be lovely to see certain riders, the O'Connors of this world, rewarded for some of their efforts. Michael Woods, he's up there. Be great to see him go and win today. But I have a feeling that when it comes to it, it's going to be Pogacar.
Well, cheers for that. Thanks for the contribution. We'll hear from him again at the top, the bottom of the show, indeed, at the end of the show. Thanks very much. And slightly suitably rested after that. Brian Smith, you've been watching along for the last little while. You've seen the way this breakaway group has formed and then split again, and the real strength of this group on the flat road with those crosswinds and crosstail and now tailwind. They've made considerable, but they put a considerable amount of daylight between themselves and that group with Ben Healy and others, which has some very strong climbers in it. Timon Aaronsman must be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. In this situation, he's in with a good shout. I did say they're going to need 5 minutes at the bottom of the climb to secure the stage win, and it's looking good for the breakaway now. I don't think Pogacar is going to have his day. Just below the kiss between the two at the front. Jordi Meijers, Belgian in second place there. Niels Pollitt having to do a lot of the work. The problem is UAE Team Emirates have got two strong riders in front. We saw it the other day with Tim Wellens getting his stage win. He was given the green light to try and win the stage. But the only problem this group has got is they aren't gaining time anymore.
Stage 16 of Tour de France, building up nicely into something a little bit special. This is, I think, Gachinard, is it? It's found himself some way adrift, and now almost 14 minutes back. We saw him in tears earlier on. He's through the intermediate sprint point, finding himself about 8 minutes, coming up on 9 minutes behind the main peloton, and it's going to be a long, tough day just yet for Gachinard of the Total Energy squad. Thomas Gachinard, meanwhile, fellow countryman. Julian Alaphilippe, present in this group. Would he have the legs to fend off the rest, including the chasers behind? How significant is that group of chasers? You've just mentioned the likes of Pavel Sivakov and Marc Soler from the UAE Team Emirates squad behind. Ben Healy as well, Santiago Buitrago, Verstringer, who's been on some decent climbing form of late. Michael Woods, of course, that we've mentioned as part of the group, now showing 1 minute and 23 seconds down. And it looks as if they're running out of cooperation, and that cannot be said of this. But I say they're not running out of cooperation. There still seems to be a little bit of shenanigans. But Tim Wellens has had a little bit of a moment off his bike, back on his race bike there. Not sure what that was about, but stage 15 minute. Tim Wellens has collected a wheel. And look at the way his shorts are showing the effects of what's a really long, hot day in the saddle. Mercury up to around about 29 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, this is they have this more often because they're drinking a lot, sweating out. Read nothing into it in the past. It used to be a sign that you may be dehydrated, possibly you're close to kind of cramping. But now that there's putting so much nutrition into their bodies, things like that. They have to kind of sweat it out, and that's quite normal nowadays. But you know, it's just your body's cooling system, isn't it, on overdrive on a day like today. Abrahamson is not riding. Fred Wright is not happy with the situation, and they're continuing to have words with each other. What is significant is, although these guys have got 5:46 and are looking good for potentially trying to win this stage today, for the other group, well, you know, they've only just got over 4 minutes, which I don't think is going to be enough for the group behind. Just as I was saying a little bit earlier on, for a lot of these teams, they've got themselves in the breakaway, and only 2 teams have missed out, and that's JK Olula and Decathlon, not involved with it. But I can't understand why this second group behind is, you know, the Haley group are not getting organised. When we last saw them, they were just disorganised. Yeah, there's some good riders in that group that are very capable of winning the stage today, and they're kind of throwing it away a little bit. If they kept it within a minute to the bottom of Vong 2, then I think that's doable. But what is happening at the moment is UE Team Emirates are taking no chances at all. The grass that they had during the middle of the stage looked strong, but that stage win is slipping through the fingers of Tadej Pogačar.
Yeah, Aronsman, is he the particularly the rider in the strongest position right now? Is it again anyone else from that group?
For me, it's a difficult one from that group, because he is already shown in this race that he's probably the better climber, and you know, looking good for them. Enigmas, if Enigmas is on a good day, he could match Aronsman. So Movistar were one of the teams that really kind of instigated this, and I'd dearly love to get a stage win. But we're into the last week of the race. Abrahamson is obviously been told he's not got to ride. So of the breakaway, yes, I would think Aronsman, then possibly Mas, and then Alaphilippe. But just looking at this group again, they're rolling through, but of course they're going to have some passengers, because UE Team Emirates and Civikov and Soler are not going to do anything. You've got, you know, Hirschi as well. You know, he's happy with the situation, the rider in black there, but a lot more of these riders should be trying to contribute a little bit more now, because they've got themselves in with a chance. You don't want to be kind of throwing it away. With Fred Wright and Frog, Bertrago can just sit there and do nothing as well. So they definitely have got a chance. In 1:27, 1.5 minutes when we hit the Vong 2, if you've saved enough energy in this group, then you still got an opportunity. I said this before to Serge Pauls in the 2-in-1 stage. I said, coming up to the Glandon, forget about the riders that are attacking on the flat, because they're using a lot of energy at the moment. If you can save that a little bit, you can make up the 2 minutes on the climb, and that was the case. He went over the top with only 5 riders. It was a stage that actually Romain Bardet went on to win, and of the 5 riders went over the top, Serge got 5th. But he said after the race that if he'd have made these efforts on the flat, he would have paid for it on the climb. So the riders in front, although they're making a little bit more effort than these guys here, it's still not over for these guys, but they don't want it to go up to the kind of 2 minutes. They want to bring it down. By the time they get to the Vong 2, either bring it back or bring it down to under a minute. The thing about Fred Wright here, he's got Bertrago back there. I'm not saying Fred Wright can't climb, but when you've got Aronsman and the likes of Masson here, and potentially Alaphilippe, who has shown a couple of days ago that he started to come good, the chances of a stage win for Fred Wright is a little bit slimmer.
Really strong situation for Enric Mas as well. He's still back to 20th overall, but he is a world-class climber, GC contender. It hasn't worked out for that particular ambition from Movistar in this edition of Tour de France, but nonetheless, the Spanish rider is a canny customer and is also in with a great shout today. Got back out to 1:38. Looks like they're starting to get a little bit more coordinated up front. For a moment, it looked as if it was coming back to, well, it came back to within sort of 1:25. So they lost about 10 or 15 seconds of their advantage, the leading riders, of whom there are 7. Chasers behind 30 and not involved in this group, this scrap for stage honours at the moment at any rate. Jonas Vingegaard, 2nd overall, heading towards Mont Ventoux. Spoke to him earlier.
Jonas, just describe what makes Mont Ventoux such a special proposition.
There's a lot of things. It's been in the Tour de France for so many times. A lot of big fights has been battled there, and yeah, it's an iconic climb. It's a very hard climb. It's yeah, almost 20k long. So yeah, you cannot hide anywhere there.
We are expecting a big battle. Okay, even without the breakaway, there will be a general classification battle, whether it's for the win or not. You seem to be getting stronger and stronger every day. How are you feeling right now? Are you up to it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling good. I had a good rest day together with the team yesterday, and yeah, rested a lot, obviously. But then we'll see today. Hopefully the legs are good, and then we can maybe try something.
The longer climbs, the 3rd week in the Tour, are what suit you the most. How do you think you can crack Tadej Pogacar? Can you read his body language? When do you know that he is about to go?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't really showed any sign of weakness so far. So obviously, it's pretty hard to read something out of that. But as I said before, we just have to keep trying, and we didn't lose our hopes. We still believe it can be possible, and yeah, we just keep on trying.
Final question, Jonas. You seem to be more relaxed than ever. Do you get nervous before a stage like this?
Oh yeah, I mean, of course, there's a bit of nerves. I mean, you in some kind of way, you kind of learn how to handle the nerves. The older you get, and the more experience you get.
Good luck today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it does say he seemed more relaxed than ever. This man too seems pretty content. Still got a bit of netting and a bit of bandaging from that crash last week. It's receding in the memory, but no doubt he remembers just how quickly things can change. Advantage for our leaders that front out to more than 6 minutes now. Cruising potentially towards a race-winning scenario because the chasers behind, well, they will make inroads on many of these riders when they come to that final hill. Will they catch all of them? Huntsman and Mass, currently the favourites, hugely invested, riding to the front. A big opportunity. Movistar, of course, good to see them in the break after doing so much to try and create that scenario, much to the disgruntlement of Niels Pollitt. Marked absent, as you mentioned, Jacob Alula, unfortunately, because they were amongst those teams that helped to create this scenario, but ultimately it didn't quite work out. The Capital AG Tour as well, also failing to get in it. They look to defend the interests of Felix Gall in the overall general classification, starting the day 7th overall, an Austrian rider. 12:33 down, just 33 seconds down on 6th place. So, to try and get on terms with Primoz Roglic, and Felix Gall looked very good, didn't he, on the Hera Good day.
The thing is, they're allowing Hirschi and Mark Haller to slow these things down. What are they thinking about in this group? You're in with a chance of a stage win here. Mark Haller is getting himself involved here, sitting 2nd place. This is Pavel Bittner. We've already said Pavel Bittner, sprinter, should be saving his legs for tomorrow. Possibly the wrong rider of picnic post here, but. You have to keep at it. That was it Michael Woods or one of the Israel Premier Tech guys just saying to Steve Bauer, I think it was Chris Nylands, he's just saying it now, nobody wants to ride. You have to encourage them. You have to go back and communicate. Should have quick step, nobody in front. Forget about Pro Cycling, forget about everybody else. We're in with a chance. Visma Leservik are not going to do anything near the UE Team Emirates, but there's other riders that are in here. But Chris Nylands, I think, has to really kind of sacrifice himself now because he finds himself in an awkward situation. Alpha Syndiconic, well, they've got 1 or 2 riders in here. Rijkaard, he's not a climber, so he has to kind of sacrifice. Everybody else is just sitting and waiting, and that stage one potential is gone. It's the same with other riders. There's a lot of riders in here that will not ride, and that's why you cannot get irritated by the fact you've got a job to do. There might be 2 or 3 riders in here that can do a job and keep that gap down, because it's continuing to kick up to 142 now.
Yeah, I am total lack of cooperation there, which I find slightly peculiar, it has to be said.
Well, I'll go through them, of the riders that are in there. That Civikov and Chaler, they won't ride, neither will Bennett and Campanarts. I find that a little bit disappointing, that because the way that they've showed the form, that there's an opportunity here. The main team is Soudal Quickstep. They have to sacrifice more. Pascal Einkorn, 100%. They have to start to ride. Ben Healy's on his own. He's not going to do anything. Barry's on his own. The try was get Fred Wright in front. Aronsman is in the front group. Mick Van Dijk from Red Bull. He's not going to do anything. Tom Squinch, again, another rider that's on his own with Clement Rousseau. Rijkaard, I think, has to do something, but there's too many riders that are sitting back.
Well, we think back to 2021, and Jonas Vingegaard has enjoyed this mountain. It's certainly looming in the memory of Tadej Pogačar in yellow on the mountain, and ultimately floundering, unable to follow the pace. He did get on and get back on, and ultimately managed to reattach, but that was a dodgy moment, wasn't it, for Tadej Pogačar back in 2021. You'll well remember that Jonas Vingegaard is a rider who can get the full 3 weeks. This was not the finish of the stage, of course. He raced down to Malocène afterwards. But at that point, Jonas Vingegaard in the ascendancy. Pogačar in frantic chase mode. And very knowledge of that. The last time they went up it together, Jonas Vingegaard was better, and Tadej Pogačar may not win the stage today, although let's not rule that one out just yet. It's a long way to go in this stage, but more than anything, he wants to make sure that none of his general classification rivals are able to stay with him. The ambition burns deep for that particular objective.
So now Fred Wright, has he dropped back now to help out? He's clashed at 52 seconds, so
that would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but Drago's the bit. Fred Wright said, no disrespect to him, he's not going to win the stage, so as he dropped back to help out. So that means that if that is the case, Fred will ride. Einkorn has to ride. Let me see, everybody's got single riders that have got a rider in the breakaway anyway. Rijkaard has to ride, that's 3 riders. Chris Nyland's 4 riders. And you have to think Lotto with, if it's going to be Brent Van Moor for Dreisner, it's at least 4 riders that have to do a bit of riding.
It's a bit sparky, isn't it? Had the benefit of tail cross for much of the day, but nonetheless, more than 50 kilometres per hour to this point in the proceedings. What have we got? About 130 kilometres done with heaps at this point. It's absolutely huge and immense speed. That naturally enough is going to be pared back. It's still going to be above 40 kilometres an hour, I think, at the end of the day. Well clear of that one, and in many ways, that's the very fact of so many teams and riders showing ambition and being available and capable of attacking. There's not as many riders in this modern era on their knees and incapable of racing, and more and more riders are able to get involved in the hunt for honours in the final week. Remember, we'll hit the bottom of the climb with 15.5 kilometres to go. So we've got about 17 kilometres to that point. These riders want to take as much out of it as possible. It's over 1 3/4 minutes now, back to the They're calling the Healy group as the best placed rider on general classification of those riders in there, starting the day 10th overall.
But it's Trentine has sacrificed himself for Alaphilippe now. He's doing the majority to the riding. I've just ridden off 3 or 4 riders in that second group that should be riding to help the teammates out. So realistically, if they come up, communicate, because you understand that the riders that have got riders up there in general classification, they're not going to ride. Riders that have got a rider in the breakaway are not going to ride. So I think tactically Fred Wright is dropped back because Buitrago is their best bet for a stage win. Fred Wright is going to finish here on the stage, but what's the point of just riding to the climb for Arensman and Maas, possibly Alaphilippe to fight out the stage win? So it's a good move from them. Got the wrong rider in the breakaway, but Soudal Quickstep's got 3 riders back in the second.
And Incorn went back pretty quickly, didn't he? But yes. He doesn't seem to be able to drag Ilan van Wilder or Parry Pontchartrain into contention.
They're allowing the other riders to get involved. You see Marco Haller just sitting second wheel.
How do you stop that? So basically what you're saying is that the Tudor Pro Cycling team, they've got 2 out front, so they're 2 behind. We're just trying to make a nuisance of themselves by sitting second, third wheel, but not coming up to contribute to the pace.
And then letting the wheel go. So that's what Chris Nylands is going. He's complaining to Steve Bauer that they won't follow. Well, get the riders that need to ride. Incorn started riding again, Nylands. So the only way to stop that, and you see the 2 Tudor riders just sitting there. I'd love to see Alaphilippe win, but I don't think he will, right? But they have to play this card. So Fred Wright, if he has dropped back, start to ride with Nylands. But Lotto have got 2 riders in here. Not one of them is prepared to ride.
So Fred Wright has finally made it to that second group on the road. Surprised he didn't just pull the brakes, really, try and get back there as quickly as possible. But he's just going to find Buitrago, make sure that he's kept as cool as possible and as nourished as possible. And no doubt we'll see an appearance from the British rider up onto the front to assist Pascal Incorn, who's got Chris Nylands. Incorn here for Van Wilder and Parry Pontchartrain. We've got second in line is Chris Nylands, who's riding for Michael Woods. They're climbing. Riders in this second group on the road, approaching 2 minutes in arrears. That's where we're headed. Well, the vault on the approach to Vault 2 is not insignificant. With the ice pack. Tadej Pogacar was suggesting that these ice packs may have contributed to the little cold and sniffle that he picked up a few days ago. He's saying that the huge contrast, I mean, the need to keep cool is absolutely massive. I read a fascinating article produced by Daniel Benson this morning, which I would recommend having a look at it on his Substack. And so basically, the need to keep cool and how riders manage their temperatures, and basically, bicycle racers, even the fittest and most efficient, are not particularly efficient engines. That there's only about 20 to 25% of the actual sort of watts that you're producing is going into the actual sort of energy that you're producing is actually going into the pedals. The rest of it, 3/4 of it, is actually generating heat, and that heat needs to be controlled and managed. If you can keep it yourself as cool as possible, well then that's less of an implication. And interestingly enough, when it's all about watts per kilo, and you think 6.5, 6.8 or whatever watts per kilo will get you up the mountain, it ought not necessarily be all that important which rider is heavier than the other, but actually the smaller riders, those of smaller stature, are producing less watts, therefore they're producing less heat. And even though there's a little bit of an offset for the fact that you've got you're slightly smaller stature, so then you've got less surface area to dissipate the heat. The offset is not that great, that the advantage doesn't skew towards the smaller rider on the big long climbs, and so therefore potentially Jonas Vingegaard could have a slight advantage in terms of heat management, heat efficiency, compared to Tadej Pogacar. All fine margins at the very top level, as you might imagine, but I would recommend the amount of detailed information and the amount of attention that the teams and the the scientists, sports scientists, are putting into the management of heat, and it's all around keeping the riders cool. So as many bidons go over their heads as go into their body, and the ice that with those ice packs that they're constantly going towards all day, every day, to try and stay as cool as possible, absolutely vital. But then Tadej Pogacar was suggesting that it's suddenly so cold, having been on the back of your neck, that it could potentially be contributing to a little bit of a sore throat and the odd little niggle. So it's extraordinary how these bodies are put under such pressure, and the tiniest little thing can have an effect. Inside 30 to go. Inside 15 kilometres now to the bottom of Mont Ventoux. Gap still, well, it's actually coming down now, so we're starting to see the effect. So partly I think this is as a result of this little ripple that they've hit. Also maybe an extra rider arriving on the front of the chase group and close it down on the approach to the hill. Super job for the Abis de Koning squad to at least be in the chase group. For Stringer, will try and get his climbing legs on. He's looked pretty good. So too will Santiago Buchaga.
See, I know that Ricciardo has a job to do already, but I think he has to do another job as well. He has to contribute one rider. They've got two decent climbers in here with Stringer and Morrison. So to give them a chance, I think Jonas Ricciardo has to kind of start to help out this group as well. You may beg the question, what's Abrahamsen doing? He's in that group in front of six. He's not contributing, he's not a climber. He's won his stage already, but the problem that he's got is Leknesund this year. Leknesund can climb okay, right? And you'd think that to give Leknesund a better opportunity, you would drop Abrahamsen back and do what Fred Wright is doing. But I think Abrahamsen thinks that if these guys keep on riding, I can just sit at the back. Then
stay fresh.
Yeah, who knows if it comes down to who's got the strength in the end with the third week of the Grand Tour, and it's not all about being the best climber, it's what you've got left in the legs. So maybe he's thinking that he could try and kind of stay in there. You know, it was nice to see Fred Wright drop back, and I think that was the right thing to do in that situation, because Buchaga is a very gifted climber, and clearly they want a stage win like others. But
not quite the same for Uno X, because Leknesund, decent climber, but not in the same level as Buchaga.
No, that's why he's staying there, just to give them that kind of further option. But I don't think Airbnb and Lotto are helping themselves either, because they've got two riders each in that group. And I think I've gone through most of them why they aren't riding. So they're kind of not helping each other. They're not contributing and helping out their situation either.
Niels Bollitz ploughing a lone furrow up front, feeling the heat on the back of his neck in many respects, at least because he's got 100-odd bike riders right on his tail.
But it's been a fascinating stage, like you're talking about this. And I would say the same stage that Abrahamsen won was very similar. It changed mid-stage, and that's what it needed to do, to change the kind of outcome of it. And this stage started where, for the first 50 Ks, it was just like full-on attack. They're all kind of chasing each other. Everybody wanted to be in the breakaway. And then all of a sudden we had three riders. And then everybody sat back, and at that stage it was like, well, we're going to see Pogacar try and win this stage today. And luckily, we saw a race within a race where we've seen a breakaway, and looks as if the breakaway are going to have their day.
Their day on Ventoux. This is what's in prospect out of Saint-Estève. He gets grippy right from the get-go. It's a total of 15.7 kilometres at 8.8% average. And north of and approaching 10% right from the very first kilometre, through the red sections, which are only horrific as opposed to unbearably horrific, and then into the final couple of kilometres where it starts to bite again. 9.2, 9.5 for the final 2 kilometres. Up to the weather station, at the top of Mont Ventoux. Very, very good place to put a windsock, I would have thought. Yeah.
Right, there's Rubio.
Yeah.
Just with a front wheel puncture.
Seen a few punctures.
I raced up to China. The wind does have an effect, and we're seeing that now, but it's not an easy, although this is categorised at 15.7, 8.8, this is grippy before we even get to the climb.
ክቡራት ተኸታተልቲ ሳብስክራይብ እናገበርኩም ፆታ ናብ መፈፀምቱ እንዳበፅሐ እዩ ዘሎ ኣብ መወዳእታ ብዓቐበት እዩ ዝውድእ 16 ኪሎ ሜትር ተሪር ዓቐበት ኣለዎ ኣብኣ ኸ ምቁርራፅ ኣብኣ ኢና ክርኢ ማለት እዩ ሆፕፉሊ እቶም ሃዲሞም ዘለዉ ክዕወት እዩ ተስፋ ዝግበር ምስ ዘሎ ጋብ ክንደይ ናይ ከይቀርቦ ክልተ ዓይነት ቦላታ ኢና ክርኢ ማለት እዩ ናይ ግዜን ናይ ቦላታ ከዓ ናይ ነጥብካ ክርኢ ኢና ማለት እዩ ሳብስክራይብ እናገበርኩም ላይክ ሳብስክራይብ እናገበርኩም ኩራት ተኸታተልቲ
something big in this race so far. Although there's some big people kind of stepping up with one eye, Abis has already shown that he can go over some of the big mountains in the Pyrenees. So it does come down to what you've got in the left, in the legs, and you know, we saw earlier on in the archives, even up to Château-Reynard, it's quite difficult. We saw Thomas Degenn beat Serge Pauls. Serge Pauls is a climber. Thomas Degenn more of a kind of rouleur type of rider. So there's definitely some more opportunities for some of these guys in this second group. But I feel as if in the next 10 kilometres, before we actually hit the bottom of the Mont Ventoux, we have to see them accelerating and closing this gap to close to a minute.
To the Vaucluse, we're very much at this point in the Provence, the Côte d'Azur region. Will be quite a distance from the Côte d'Azur. It's an Alp. The Mont Ventoux is an Alp, but it's an Alp that sits alone, doesn't it? There's virtually nothing else around. But as you mentioned, naturally enough, if you've got any sort of mountain close by, it suddenly becomes not suddenly, but it gradually becomes more demanding. It goes to sort of 1, 2, 3%. Or it's not getting any categorization in terms of climbing, but it's certainly having its effect. And Henrik Mas just gets his sustenance and gets his instructions.
We've not really kind of mentioned Velasco, the rider here from XDS Astana.
Back in season.
Yeah, fourth in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, although it's a different climb up. I'm not too sure how he goes in the big mountains, and this is a big mountain we're coming up, but he can climb as well, and that's the reason why he's kind of riding through and off and contributing a little bit. I think what he needs to do is kind of try and duck and dive a little bit, but I wouldn't discount him.
And no teammate behind, a 29-year-old Italian from Bologna. Trophy Lagueglia back in 2019, but he's had some decent results earlier in the year. He's hoovering up points for the Astana squad when they felt they really needed them. Seventh, see if we can pick out anything else. Sixth on a stage of Tirreno Adriatico. He's very active in that one. Coppi Bartoli week as well. A ninth, a third, a fourth, fifth overall in Coppi Bartoli week, and then similar consistency at World Tour level in the Basque Country. 8th overall, a couple of sevenths and a third place finish. So just solid, performance right through.
Short, sharp climbs, Liège type, Coppa Bartoli as well. These are short, sharp climbs. Nothing big mountains. So that's the only kind of question mark I've got. Yes, he's a kind of smaller rider, can go over climbs. And it comes down to, as I said, is what has he got left?
Well, starting to manage the gap a little bit with Fred Wright now contributing, having been out front, back now to assist Santiago Buitrago, and while they're not really closing up much, they're starting to sort of settle in at that 135, 140 gap to the riders out front.
Yeah, I think they want to close it down to as much as they can, possibly around about a minute. A minute on this climb is nothing come the end, but they want to try and kind of close it down. You just see this road, it's heavy, you can see what's coming, slightly uphill, the wind's coming from the left. It's now the riders in front are starting to think of the main climb, about trying to kind of win the stage.
Thanks for Pavel Bittner at the side of the road. He's in the group behind. Road rises a bit, harder to keep it as engaged and connected. And riding into Bedouin. Population 3,100, and all about tourism here, and a huge amount of that tourism is bike riding. You can go riding up this mountain. I mean, anyone can go riding up any of the mountain, but Mont Ventoux seems to have gathered an extra sort of aura for racing cyclists and touring cyclists alike.
Well, make sure you do just as much as Abrahamson, okay? You force Abrahamson to work also.
Yeah, that's what you were suggesting, really. Abrahamson's starting to ride here a little bit, and Velasco maybe doing a little bit more than he should have been doing.
Yeah, it's one of these situations you get yourself in a breakaway, and you have to try and kind of duck and dive a little bit. Let the others do the majority. You know, the thing is, Tudor Cycling have got two riders here, and Trentin sacrificed himself a little bit more for Alaphilippe. You've got Arensman, who's won a stage, and Maas, who's been up there in the general classification in this race, and you get two really good climbers, and you've got a mountain coming up that you can see looming in the, I would say, distance, but relative distance. So you really, and even when we hit Bedouin here, it starts to, it just rises and rises and rises. This is, although it's categorised, and we saw the climb of Super Banyers, that they were saying it's a longer climb than it was categorised. This is exactly the same.
Better. All about the tourism, as I mentioned, third largest source of income after the vineyard. There's a very popular thing that you can do, a sort of a club that you can join called the Sangles, where people come from all over the world to ride Mont Ventoux, but they don't just ride it once, they ride it 3 times in one day. Go up each, there are 3 different approaches, of course, and if you do that, you get a little card stamped at the top and at the cafe, and then you can join that club.
Of course, there's this side, there's the descent, the other side,
yeah.
Plus there's the other way that goes up to Chalet-Renard.
Right. So
it comes. This road is joined by another road, but the two of them actually go up the last part to the top of Mont Ventoux.
So it's kind of convenient to. I mean, a very, very long day and a tough day. To climb Mont Ventoux once is arduous and demanding enough. Climb it 3 times was entirely extraordinary. Good battle. Listen to the cacophony. What a thrill it's going to be for these riders. They try to act cool, but they are going to be hugely exercised by the level of noise and the sheer intensity of the sport.
So these are the fans that decided that they didn't want to go up the mountain.
I have a couple of friends there, actually. Shout out to Barry and Deirdre Bonner at the side of the road in Bedouin. I think I spotted the flag there a moment ago. Meanwhile, Enkhorn has not been found wanting today. Great shift of work once again from the Dutch rider on behalf of Van Wilder and Parry Ponto, which are the two climbing riders from the Soudal Quick Step squad, another team a bit like De Koning Quick Step that have had to, Abis and De Koning that have had to sort of realign and reset and go again after the departure of their leading rider.
Well, they've got 2 very good climbers in this group, and both of them missed that split. You can't. This is what I can't understand. I know Enkhorn made it initially, but when you've got Valentin, Parry Ponto, and Van Wilder in this group behind, and yet both of them missed it. And Enkhorn got himself there, he had to come back, and then Fred Wright got himself there, he's come back. It's, especially with Soudal Quickstep, you have to be on it, and to have 3 riders in here and for both of the climbers to kind of miss out. When you know that Arensman and Maas, Alaphilippe, these sort of riders come down the road, you have to be attentive.
This is what you're saying, Brian. 20 to go. We're still theoretically 4 and a bit kilometres to the start of the hill, but we're on a hill.
Yeah, it's
obviously,
it's grippy. and normally, you know, the wind is blowing when you start to ride towards it. But it just feels as if you're going slightly uphill. Maybe not at this speed, because we're still averaging just over 49 kilometres an hour. But it's just a really grippy. What I got from going from this side is, as soon as you hit the categorised part, it just goes to over 9%. It just bangs straight in there.
Little bit of thud. Yeah. Inside 20 kilometres from the end of the stage, and this is what they've been building up to for the entire day. Mont Ventoux looms, and these are the riders who have worked hard and earned the privilege of beginning at first. Kenny Martinez behind. Well, he knows there are a lot of points available at the top of the mountain. We have the legs potentially to score. How has he recovered? It seemed to be backwards ever so slightly. Potentially could lose the lead of this classification.
Yeah, Abandonments would be the person that would be more likely to take that King of the Mountains top place. As you can see, only 12 points behind the man in polka dots.
Yeah, 20 points on offer at the top of the mountain. And as you saw, within 12 points of the lead of it is Timon Aronsman, who's number 62 here, the Innis Grenadiers rider. Tall rider, but climbing really, really well. And superb victory for him at Super Bagnères a couple of stages ago. Julian Alaphilippe pounding along on the front at the moment. Well, can Julian Alaphilippe win this stage? Can he climb with the same efficiency as Timon Aronsman? Is he as good a climber as Enric Mas on the form that Mas has right now?
I would love to see him win. You know what? I'd love to see him win the stage. But I don't think he's got the same form as the likes of what I've seen from Madisman. Mas is the question mark for me. Has he come good on this stage in the Tour? Because until now he's been missing a lot. So, but you can see Movistar were really interested. He's riding. He's on his days one of the best riders, you know, climbing riders in the world.
Approaching the lower slopes of Mont Ventoux now, not quite on the climb proper, but not far off it at this point. And Julian Alaphilippe has been goodbye.
Today, you're gonna do everything to make it even. Make it again. Come on, guys.
Yeah, that recorded a little earlier on when still involved at the front of the race was Matteo Trentin, who's done a wonderful job, and Julian Alaphilippe doesn't want to see Timon Aronsman just suddenly disappear off up the road, so he responds to that one and goes straight over the top. Big investment, and we're not at the hill yet. Well, this is pure Julian Alaphilippe. He just almost can't contain himself.
I really do hope the way he's showing at the moment he can finish this off, because the way he's riding, and you know, I'm reading into this, he's showing all his, he's showing everybody I feel really good today. You know, I'm starting to get that feeling that he's just doing a little bit too much.
Is it a lack of confidence that maybe he doesn't believe in his chances on the mountain and wants to get going early?
No, he must feel good.
Surprisingly, Aronsman going backwards here. That is a little bit of a not what we were expecting. Timon Aronsman, who's many people's favourite for honours today, at least to be the last man standing potentially from this group, and maybe more. Group behind, by the way, as you can see, they've closed another 10 seconds, so they're going to pare down their disadvantage on the approach to this final mountain. Jonas Abrahamsson, already a stage winner in this race, albeit on a very, very different character of a stage. Wants to press on to maintain what they've got. And Enric Mas picking it up. Aronsman just showing signs of fatigue there, or was he hoodwinking a little bit?
You never know. Some riders want to set their own tempo. Because of the pressure on the race, the fast starts, he might be kind of feeling it at the moment. Abrahamsson definitely feeling it, so he's going to pull the plug now. So I think for Anderson, let's see. He's not out of it. Just set his own tempo. Let them kind of race ahead. The guys that in the Healy group are not out of it at all today as well.
Yeah, some excellent climbers coming from behind, potentially the likes of the aforementioned Ben Healy, Philip Van Wilder, brilliant Harry Paul from Michael Woods, and certainly don't rule out the duo from the UAE Team Emirates squad. They've got the closest thing to a relatively cool, calm and collected ride into the mountain as well, and Timon Aronsman reports of his demise in this stage greatly exaggerated. Clearly wants to start pressing on. Meanwhile, the main peloton trying to project their GC contenders into position as the Ineos Grenadiers squad moved Carlos Rodriguez up. Danny Martinez has been hovering around the back all day, and I think this is a long hot day. Maybe, just maybe not. Legs haven't recovered. Oh no, actually it looks more like a mechanical issue here for the polka dot rider. Now straight back into the wheel again. Once of his departure from the group of favourites, greatly exaggerated. Aronsman straight up to the front without any difficulty whatsoever. Henrik Mas riding on the front, Velasco here, Julian Alaphilippe and Timon Aronsman, the expected favourites gravitating to front. Adam Blythe's on the motorbike behind. He's behind the Ben Healy group. What are his observations as they approach this final climb?
So I'm just behind the second group on the road now, and they're all working well together. Bitten's gone out the back already, Fred Rye, obviously, but this is a steeper section than what it looks on the television. The climb has not officially started, but the speed is around 27, 28 km/h right now in this group. There's a lot of spikes in one line being struck out, just transportation cell. This part here as well, it's all tailwind, so the heat is hot. It's currently 30 degrees C, but with the wind blowing this way, it's going to be boiling. So when they get into these trees, they can cool down a little bit and hopefully sustain that effort for longer. But the start of this, the pace in this second group, it's on right now. I'll get back to you with any updates and any riders that start to go out the back as I enjoy the B features. Cheers, guys. Back to you.
Adam Blythe enjoying his day out on the motor in support at the moment of Group 2 on the road. Well, it might be all on in that group behind, but it's all on at the front as well because they've actually added a little bit to their advantage in the last little bit. And this quartet still trading blows, and it's both salvos against each other and also collectively working to expand their advantage. Still going north. Yeah, these are the fans on the side of the road decided not to go all the way up the mountain. Isn't that much room, is there?
It's I think it's round this left-hand corner where it just goes. Oh,
oops. There you go. The climb starts. Mont Ventoux beckons. Meanwhile, somewhere adrift. 6:23. Well, Michael Wood suggested that the 5 minutes head start for the breakaway would be what they'd need. And Aronsman has put himself into, well, as you said earlier, Brian, it's a hockey stick profile today.
Yeah, it's different kind of sensations. You go from, riding average speed so far is 48 kilometres an hour, but they have been averaging about 50 very early today. The first hour was run off at 54 kilometres an hour, so, and then all of a sudden you had this climb and your legs feel like jelly. We've already seen Aronsman with the initial accelerations. He didn't want to go for it. He just wanted to set his own tempo, and he's come good.
Simona Velasco is starting to fade a little bit. I wonder how Jonathan Milan is feeling right now. The main peloton are just maybe a little bit further back, just trying to, I'd imagine they're already thinking in terms of setting up the gruppetto. He'll be about saving energy for tomorrow's sprint stage. Meanwhile, up front, Henrik Mas, Timon Aronsman, and Julian Alaphilippe, the crowd's favourite. And there's a Scottish salto at the side of the road. They'll get a kick when they see Oscar Onley in a little while.
ክቡራት ተኸታተልቲ ናይ ፅባሕ ፀወታ በስፕሪንት ስለ ዝውድእ ፅባሕ ናይ መወዳእታ ዓድና ናይ ስቴጅ ዊን ናይ ፅባሕ ኣብ ሰዓትና ነቕርበልኩም ድልዋት ኢና ሳብስክራይብ ግበሩ ናብ ካልኦት ንኽበፅሕ ከዓ ሼር እናገበርኩም ላይክ ማለት ብትግርኛ ፓቼ ማለት እዩ ፓቼ ግበሩ
The tall Dutchman. Looking solid at the moment. Look at the size of the crowds. Will this sustain all the way to the top of the mountain? Absolutely massive. This is the kind of crowds you would see in the last 500 metres.
Incredible, isn't it? It reminds me of that archive footage we saw earlier on with the motorbike struggling to get through, through me having to run. But whether they've only been allowed to go up, that will have to kind of wait to be seen, or they didn't want to walk up, many kilometres. But these are huge crowds up here, and these are the three guys we thought would be there: Arisman, Mas, and Alaphilippe. Alaphilippe has to be in a real super day to beat these guys, because Arisman's already shown in the tour that he's good. Same with Mas, he's coming good in this race. One of the best climbers that we've seen in recent years, just doesn't have the form in this race.
Yeah, Julian Alaphilippe, throwing loads of shapes at the bottom of the hill, wasn't he? It kind of put you in mind of his performance at Amstel Gold, much shorter hills and much more frequent, slightly different character of a race. But now we're seeing the group behind, and the push with Dylan van Wilder and Aurélien Paré-Pontre on the front. So now Quickstep trying to retrieve this, close it down. The gap remains a constant, just over a minute and a half between them. And Julian Alaphilippe has this ability to launch an attack that looks like it's from the gods, and then 2 minutes later suddenly goes backwards. It's kind of been his form over the last season or so. And we relive old glories. What a recovery it would be. What a return to glory it would be.
ተኸታተልቲ ናይ ነጥቢ ዝነበረት ነጥቢ ሓሊፈ እያ እቶም ሃዲሞም ዝነበሩ እዮም ወሲዶሞ እቲ ነጥቢ ጽባሕ ታቐንዲ ናይ ቦላታት ትውድእ ፀወታ ጽባሕ ጽባሕ ኣብ ሰዓትና ከነቕርበልኩም ብድዋእቲና ቃልና ኣቱ ሼር ሳብስክራይብ ቤተታትኩም ካብ ኮመንት ጻሕፉ
his teammates getting on up front. At the moment, the word is good.
I don't think Alaphilippe is looking good at all. I think Arisman is. I think he looks the more likely to take the stage one. He settled himself into rhythm right from the bottom of this. Don't discount Enric Mas from Movistar. He's very capable of it. Hasn't showed the form, but I think Alaphilippe is going to come up short again.
Paré-Pontre is launched by Van Wilder. They're still losing time. It would suggest it's out to 1 3/4 minutes. Valentin Paré-Pontre, saying Aurélien, his brothers in the other team, of course, but this is Valentin Paré-Pontre as Enric Mas launches. So time announcement was hoodwinking a little bit. Julian Alaphilippe can't launch. And now we've got a big effort for glory here today for Enric Mas. Well, the Movistar team have put so much into this stage, have launched so many efforts, closed down the group of three, have refused to accept their fate as decreed by the UAE Team Emirates squad. And Niels Pollitt in particular, and now are in prime position. Enric Mas won't look around from now, the 30-year-old Spaniard. Going for what would be first stage victory in Tour de France if he manages to achieve it.
Yeah, because normally he comes here for the general classification, which doesn't, you're up against your Pogačars, Vingegaards, so this is a big opportunity. He's lost quite a little bit of time and a lot of the stages so far, so but slowly but surely he's climbed his way back. Just seeing that Valentin Paré-Pontre was towards the front, you see the GC contenders coming round this left-hand corner, and then it's ouch.
Yeah, ouchie. Now the climb starts and they're down to just a smidgen under 6 minutes as well. Van Aert, who's enjoyed great moments on this hill in the past, he hits the front on behalf of Jonas Vingegaard directly in his wheel. Yates and the rest in line astern him. Tadej Pogačar happy enough to tap along in the wheels at the moment. He's UAE Team Emirates. Very quickly Fred Wright is absorbed. That didn't take long, did it? And interesting that the Vismalisa bike squad take command at the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, what they would do. I think
لما عندي جنبو فيزمان وطيرهم هذلو يوناس فينيجر لما عند قال لو تند حرارينا سبوي تاوتان عمرت ما خدت نيا.
I think that's what we heard from the interviews.
Typically determined look on the face, laser focus. Those pupils almost a pinprick, aren't they, from Enric Mas? He focuses into the rump of this mountain. As I mentioned, it starts horrific, becomes manageably awful, and then just gets even more intensely difficult at the top. And the bare statistics don't really tell the story of what it makes this such an iconic mountain, a legendary, almost but not quite mythical mountain. And Aronsman and Alaphilippe still racing together, but they are watching Enric Mas disappearing up the road.
Yeah, just it seems more measured by Aronsman. We know all the time this team, Sky now Ineos, right to the numbers, and I think Aronsman would be no different. Just making sure that he rides to the numbers on his head unit, and 16 seconds, 17 seconds is not a lot, and 127 to the group behind. It'll be interesting to see when we get back there who is in that group. But it's almost a hollow look in the eyes of Enric Mas. It's maybe not a kind of focus. It's just like there's nothing there. It's just like pure concentration, and it's just like staring into the abyss.
I remember being on Alpe d'Huez in 1986, and Urs Zimmermann came up the hill third behind Bernardino and Greg LeMond, and I thought, well, if he's third, what are the rest of it going to look like? Because he had a similar gaunt and that eyes sunken and laser focus on what was happening in front. Wonderful performance in actual fact from the Swiss rider back then. But it would put you in mind of Enric Mas. At the moment, he looks like he's really in control of his effort and has doubled his advantage in the last kilometre or so.
Just looking at that group there of Ben Healy. Ben Healy moving back into at least 9th place today by the looks of things. So Healy's there. You see Van Wilder was also on the wheel. So yeah, it looks as if with Wout van Aert, his job is done. It looks like Vingegaard is going to stick to what he said when he was interviewed. He's going to have a go at this one. He's going to have a crack, because it wasn't until Super Panniers that I think he was waiting for Pogacar to try and do something, and he never did anything. So he said, well, I'm going to take it on myself. So we're going to see a race within a race today.
So Chris has a little notional look over his shoulder to make sure that Jonas Vingegaard is okay. Vingegaard on the blower just to get the information about what's happening. Yates just there, and it all looks very much cool, calm and collected at the moment. The pace of this peloton is continuing to close down on Enric Mas, who in turn is opening up his advantage over Aronsman and Vingegaard. Meanwhile, the Healy group not making any significant inroads into the pace of Enric Mas, who looks very much in control. They're getting closer to Aronsman and Alaphilippe, but at the moment not able to put any sort of a dent into the advantage of the Movistar rider out front. Does he have enough? As we work our way into this climb, still 5:43 to say that Enric Mas looks good at the moment.
Yeah, he's like I said, he's got the experience. He's one of the top climbers in the world. Hasn't had a brilliant Tour de France, but he can turn it around today by taking this stage on the mighty Mont Ventoux.
No, it's not such a good day for Ben O'Connor, neither for Guillaume Martin, both 13th and 12th place overall. This climb is such that after a long hot day, not everybody's recovering after the rest day. Some people come out of the rest day, it takes them a day or two to get going.
Yeah, I'm just looking at where everybody is. all the GC contenders seem to be here. Felix Gall seems to ride down the back of these groups, and he's another gifted climber. We saw in Super Banyers, he attacked the group and actually, you know, gained a little bit of time in the end.
Scotland with him as well.
Yeah, so there's a few here, but look, there's 12 kilometres of hell still to go here.
Velasco detached from the front group is about to be overhauled by the first of the second group. Valentin Paré-Pontre, a little bit of an edge or an advantage over the Healy group behind. Clearly got his climbing legs on today, but down to, well, I presume that's 129, and Paré-Pontre is the GPS gap to the front. Meanwhile, Aronsman and Julian Alaphilippe in his wake, able or feeling it necessary to give Aronsman a turn.
Well, one thing is for sure, Vingegaard's going to give it a good hit today. He said he's not going to defend second place. I think he's talking rubbish. I think they will insist that he finishes in second place. He's not going to throw it all away, but we're going to see him have a crack at this one. But we've got a small group there of Healy, Woods, Van Wilder and Bertrago.
And McMass, the moment when he took his leave of Aronsman and Julian Alaphilippe and scampered clear. Zero reaction from the Dutchman. Julian Alaphilippe also recognising that to try would be a folly. And I mean, you're talking about the likely effort of Jonas Vingegaard to close that 4 minutes and 13 seconds gulf to Tadej Pogacar. He's got 340 of an advantage over Lipovic, so he has a little bit of a margin to play with to be adventurous.
Yeah, but in his interview, he's not worried about second place. He wants to go and try and win the Tour. That's what he says. And I don't quite believe it, but I think it's because he's got that buffer that he can try and do something.
Well, surprisingly, Noves is just dropping out of the elite group a little bit earlier than we might have liked or hoped. But they've got Soler and Sivakov up the road. Screech is retained, having been in the break for much of the day.
Felix Gall just the distance a little bit now, but again, it's as we saw from Aronsman at the bottom. Just because they get distance doesn't say that they're just riding their own tempo. So it's about a kind of yo-yo effect. This is a group that still has a chance, I think. Healy, Woods, Valentin Paré-Pontre and Bertrago. It looks as if they've dropped Van Wilder. That was a big effort there from Valentin Paré-Pontre of Soudal Quick-Step, and it's about recovery for him. But I wouldn't completely write these guys off, but Healy riding well today, and he will be moving up. Yeah, he will be moving up.
Yeah, he's got the bid for a second stage victory in this year's Tour de France, but also the potential to move up from 10th back up into 9th or even better. I wonder how Tobias Hallen Johansson. So you must respect this mountain. That was the instructions we heard from Alexander Vlasov early on when we spoke to the Rebel Bull Hansgrohe rider, and this is a hill that bites, and we're still in the tree-lined, relatively shaded part of this mountain. When we emerge into the glare, and so much of it is denuded of all forestation, to those limestone stretches, and it's oh, look at that, what a fantastic image.
It's not until we get to Château-Renard that kind of opens up, and then there's nothing. That's where the kind of tree line stops. There's a nice kind of cafe space and things like that if you feel as if you want to just chill out in that area before you take.
Has anyone ever not stopped to shy, right? Yeah, when they're not in a race, yeah. Now we see Alaphilippe starting to contribute. Found a rhythm that suits him. Problem is, it's about a second or two a kilometre slower than the rhythm being set by Disman. The Healy group, as you mentioned, starting to come into it a little bit. Paré-Pontre has been retained and detached. Meanwhile, Tom Yates is starting to yeah. And Tim Wellens. His work.
They do have, like you say, they've got two riders in front, but and Civikov just coming back now. They've got Marcelo a little bit further up, but
they didn't bid for stage honours today. Would that be correct? Or
yeah, no, they didn't. They didn't. If they were in the group at the bottom, then that may have been a different story. But with Vingegaard, he's also got Tiesman out and Campenarts dropping back as well. So, you know, when you look at this, it looks as if he's only got Sepp Kuss. We kind of keep on forgetting. Carlos Rodriguez is in there, Voikelin, and still hanging in the back. You can see Lipovic in the white jersey. So, Abrahamsen as well. So, all the major top 10 GC contenders, Oscar only involved here. But looking increasingly likely for this man here. Still 10 kilometres to go, so I'm not going to write his name as a winner for the moment anyway, but he has come good in this race. I think Movistar would have been deeply disappointed in where he was sitting, but they'll grab this with both hands.
Yeah, potentially an excellent recovery indeed for the Movistar squad. Had some good performances in the last few days, the likes of Heiner Rubio. Ivan Romeo's been on the attack. Some good work done by Gregor Moorberger, but now it's Enric Mas, the 20th overall, almost an hour down on general classification. There's not going to be any major shift for him up the order. He probably will make it a few places up the way things are going. And behind, Healy Group starting to, I mean, it's the first moment we've seen that they've gained a second or two, and they're inching closer to Aronsman and Alaphilippe, albeit pace of this group, and you just see there's a bit more energy about it. Sepp Kuss taps out that almost robotic rhythm. Vingegaard fully in command. Civikov didn't last long, coming back from the break. And the Frenchman not available for long there, was he? And interesting to see if and when Soler has already been clean?
No, I don't think he's further up. He's still a couple of riders. There's Tiesman out we've not seen, and Victor Campenarts, the climber.
Yeah, what an amazing Tour de France he's having as always. It's fascinating. He's still further ahead at the moment. And, waiting for his moment to shine for however long that is.
The thing is, if Vingegaard really wanted to test Pogacar, he'd go sooner rather than later. He wouldn't be waiting for the last few kilometres. He'd want to kind of test them out. So, be interesting to see when Vingegaard does decide to go. When
what scrap these guys are having.
Yeah, I think Aronsman is just riding his own tempo up here. It's like a time trial effort for him. I mean, not like Alaphilippe is like, he's like accelerate, decelerate, accelerate. Oops.
Well, don't want to. Yeah. Aronsman's under a little bit of pressure at the moment, and riding into the back of motorbikes is all the rage, of course, on this mountain. That's happened in the past. I want to see it happen again. And Healy just stomps on the pedals a little bit to great effect. Continuing to close up. That's the first significant little bite or chunk that they've taken out of the advantage of Enric Mas up front. Albeit they're now with a 4-minute advantage over this group. And now, not too many UAEs available for Tadej Pogacar. You won't mind that too much because Jonas Finger down to one. Well, I say down to one Sepp Kuss, but Yates is reattached to the back. And this section for Mas up front is about 6.5%. Sort of eases out at 10.5 kilometres to go. It's at 8%, and then eases off for just a kilometre or so.
One person we're not really going to mention is Primož Roglic, just kind of tapping away there. He's there with his young teammate Lipovic, who looks as if he's going to help in a little bit. You can see Adam Yates has moved up to the wheel of Pogacar as well. So these are all the kind of major contenders as well. The only top 10 missing here is Ben Healy, who, as we can see, is 4 minutes up the road.
So now Aronsman goes, and Julian Alaphilippe's winding and twisting his way, and your analysis, your observation, I think absolutely spot on as Healy arrives. Julian Alaphilippe, perhaps he was yo-yoing, and Aronsman a steady
This is
attempt.
the effort they made before they got to the climb, and I think Enric Mas has been able to make that effort and save that a little bit. I would never write off the group who started a minute and a half behind them, especially when you got the likes of Buitrago and Ben Healy and Valentin Parapon. This is where that decision, and it was a very astute decision of sending Fred Wright back, could pay dividends for Bahrain victorious. Because we talked about Uno X as well, and there's no point really doing that with Abrahamsen because Lagnusund is not going to stay with these climbers. But now Enric Mas has got 1 minute and 4 seconds, 1 minute 5 seconds. It's not over yet, but I think Mas is on a good day today.
We got 8.5 kilometres left. What's the rate of capture? Healy does a long turn and then wants to see some contribution from others. Buitrago is a little reluctant. Parapon does that little yo-yo thing, having been ahead. It caught, detached, reattaches, now goes to the front, wants to keep it steady. Happy enough to be in it. And still in it to win it. They're closing down to Enric Mas, but are they closing down quick enough? Meanwhile, maintaining an advantage of just smidgen under 4 minutes to increasingly energised yellow jersey group, with Sepp Kuss still setting the tempo on the front for Jonas Vingegaard, second in the line. We've got Tadej Pogacar, and followed by, he does have a teammate in there, so that's significant. Sivakov, I think, has managed to reconnect. Now my eyes deceiving. Meanwhile, Simon Yates off the back again. No, in actual fact, the other Yates, Adam Yates, is still there available, of course. Yes. Adam Yates for Tadej Pogacar, fourth in line. Enric Mas. In a world of hurt, but it's hurt that he can inflict upon himself in a measured way. Remaining 8 and a bit kilometres, 5 miles. That's how you count it. From the Milan group out to 13:39. Gashinyar is getting on. Jonas Abrahamsen drops back into the clutches. There's a little look across. See the overall race leader, Tadej Pogacar, seemingly in control. He's still got Adam Yates to assist. Florian Leibowitz will be grateful for the presence of 6th place overall Primoz Roglic, just one in front of him, the white jersey, being tracked by Oscar Onley, about whom we haven't said a whole lot, but he's still looking very, very good indeed. A bit of cooperation from the riders from different teams. Now, Parapon continues to attack. Is this useful for this group? Ben Healy stomps on the pedals to try and respond here a little bit. That was a sustained push, old school.
I've just got that feeling Buitrago's sitting biding his time. He hasn't made any efforts. Valentin Parapon is he's just like a springed up coil. He keeps on accelerating.
This man's a worried man. His teammate Timon Aronsman doesn't look as if he's got what it takes to take the stage victory today. Meanwhile, Ben Healy responds to that Parapon attack with one of his own. Buitrago immediately eases up onto the tail of the Irishman, and Carlos Rodriguez behind, increasingly worried about the fact that Ben Healy could be overtaking him on general classification. Down to 46 seconds. Enric Mas is coming back at this, right?
Yeah, I think for me, strong ride by Ben Healy, but Buitrago seems to be the danger. He seems to be the more measured of these riders. Valentin Parapon stood out quick step, keeps accelerating and not willing to watch. So he sits at the back, accelerates. Ben Healy, well, he's in a difficult situation because he wants to take back as much time as possible. This is a huge opportunity to almost consolidate. I know we've got a couple of big stages to go, but to almost consolidate a top 10, because he's put minutes into some of his rivals behind. Even if he has a bad day coming up, you know, he wants to try and kind of secure that. So he'll keep on riding. Bertrago seems to be following for the moment. Mas, well, he's in the world of hurt. He went very early. He made the effort before the climb as well. But here we go.
And here it comes, the attack that we were expecting. Jonas Vingegaard will not give this up without a fight. Tadej Pogacar immediately responds to the Dane, and the rest are at 6s and 7s, with Primož Roglic the first to react. Rodriguez is immediately caught, and that didn't take long, but Tadej Pogacar looks as if there's a little bit of pain on his face. He's had to make an effort, that's for sure. Primož Roglic can react, but it looks as if Florian Lipovitz a little less so. Oscar Onley has to now try and see if he can close up.
Yeah, interesting there. I was actually looking more behind than actually at the front there, because I saw Roglic was coming, so Roglic is getting better. He just has to be aware, because he's got Lipovitz just behind, and Oscar Onley is there. So I'm interested to see what Roglic does, whether he continues to make this effort and try and go with the duo in front, or he comes back to help out Lipovitz.
Tobias Hallam's also struggling a little bit to follow. Yates no longer available for Tadej Pogacar. It's 1-on-1 for the title, you would imagine, and Jonas Vingegaard not willing to accept his 4-minute 13-second deficit just yet.
Tish Bennett is now at the front of affairs with Vingegaard. So Haley not happy with Bertrago. He wants cooperation. He's not getting it.
Yeah, we can get Mas, but we need to work together. I can't tow you all the way to the line, and yet he just might. As Tish Bennett now links up, and how useful that is. Nicely judged, nicely played. Visma Leasabike aware that they were riding up onto the coattails of the Belgian rider. And, 2 against 1 at the moment. Tempo being set by Tish Bennett, and Jonas Vingegaard looking cool, calm and collected at the moment. First salvo fired. Tadej Pogacar no problem responding.
Yeah, Tish Bennett was a little bit more speed. I think that's what he's calling for. They still have Victor Campenaerts in front as well. There's no other UAE team Emirates in front, so I think Tish Bennett just for the next kilometre or so has to go as hard as he can. And then when he swings over, I think Vingegaard will go again, because hopefully he can actually see that he's got, try to look in front there, he's still got Victor Campenaerts some way ahead.
Sudden injection of pace has a massive effect on the advantage of the riders out front. Healy Group seems to have stalled a little bit. Now Lipovitz found himself back with Onley and Roglic. So what a response from Lipovitz. He looked semi out of it after that first attack. Onley has to react. Primož Roglic a little less willing to. And now Soler, who was up front earlier on, finds himself caught past, but now is able to try and at least get himself back up to Oscar Onley and Florian Lipovitz. Lipovitz sort of creeping around the road after his attack.
Yeah, Lipovitz is just kind of worried about Oscar Onley there, and Roglic was in the gap. He came back, and Lipovitz, I think Oscar Onley has to play the game again. Just kind of fake that he's really suffering. Let Lipovitz do it. Still a long way to go for these guys, and try and do something towards the top of this point.
Surprised to see Roglic collapse like that, suddenly not able to. Was he going to ride himself steady?
Kind of. He was stuck in the middle there. No help whatsoever to Lipovitz. I thought he needed to turn around and try and kind of come back and help Lipovitz, but no, he came back and Lipovitz attacked over the top. So I don't think there's a lot of cohesion between the two.
And down to groups of 1s and 2s. There's the next one. That's it for Tish Bennett. And Jonas Vingegaard immediately launches, and immediately Tadej Pogacar continues to stay where he was. There's no real immediate about it. He just absolutely no change. Jonas Vingegaard has a little look around as he arrives onto the tail of Leknesund.
He looked around too early there. He only made an effort there for about 50 metres and looked around to see if he was able to distance Pogacar, and that was a no. for me, Vingegaard hasn't got it to lead Pogacar on this climb. And Pogacar, well, we'll have to wait and see, because in the last kind of 6 kilometres, is he going to do what he done in Super Panniers and just sit there and then leapfrog in the end? I think that could be a situation.
The question is, does Enric Mas, or indeed any one of these three riders, still have what it takes to win this stage? The advantage for Mas is down to 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It's less than 2 minutes, with still almost 6 kilometres up the mountain remaining, as the crowd rises in voice to support the riders on Mont Ventoux. And you would have said at the bottom of the mountain that they probably had enough to contest the stage between them. Would you be as confident now?
I still am confident in the breakaway. It really depends now on Pogacar. If Pogacar does what he did on Super Panniers, of course they're going from distance here. In Super Panniers, it was a lot closer to the end. So it's these accelerations from Vingegaard that's making a difference. Once he gets to Victor Campenaerts again, it'll be you sit on the wheel and try again. I still do think that the riders in front have just got enough to kind of hang on in the last 5.5 kilometres, but it really depends on that man in yellow.
Early brakeman Velasco is back. Another injection of pace from Jonas Vingegaard. And Tadej Pogacar will remain welded to the back wheel of the Danish rider. Limpet-like, knows what he needs to do. He's defending that yellow jersey. Still plenty of time to close it down. The Healy group are starting to make further inroads into the advantage of Enric Mas. Meanwhile, as you say, Victor Campenaerts, aero helmet and all on Mont Ventoux, is going to try and set Jonas Vingegaard up for another one of those.
Just seen Pogacar in the saddle just for a moment there. Vingegaard just eases a little bit, looks behind. I just looking behind straight after the acceleration. I don't think he can get rid of Pogacar, but Victor Campenaerts is eased back. He's used Benoit already, Vingegaard. Now he's going to use Victor Campenaerts. So get him on the wheel. Right, here we go again. And then we're going to, when Victor Campenaerts has done his job, he just took a breath there. He's going to accelerate. And then Vingegaard is going to try again for the third time. It's like motor pacing, isn't it, where you set up those efforts to do a bit of a turn and insist they pull off and ask the riders to go again at the end of it. Meanwhile, Ben Healy still has William Parry-Ponto. Where's Buitrago? Is he going ahead or is he behind? He's behind.
Well, that's a surprise. Buitrago wasn't kidding, wasn't bluffing, because Ben Healy is pumping out a metronomic performance here at the moment, albeit just about 2.5 minutes ahead of the Maillot Jaune group, and now within 24 seconds of retaining Enric Mas. Campenaerts, well, look at Vingegaard, he's chomping at the bit here, he's waiting for his moment to go again. Pogacar looks absolutely serene.
I tell you what, Ben Healy's on a day. You know, looking at it, Ben Healy looks as if he's strong enough. He's been strong all the way up the climb. Valentin Parry-Ponto he's been up and down a little bit, attacking. Starting to get worried now about Enric Mas if he can pull this one off. I think Ben Healy could be the favourite.
Could it be stage honours on the second time in Tour de France 2025 for the F Education Easy Post rider Ben Healy? Going to be Valentin Parry-Ponto taking a first victory for the home nation. Oscar only has one agenda, and that's to stay with Florian Lipovitz, and maybe, just maybe, to put him behind him.
I think he has to get a bit of confidence in here. Why is Lipovitz not riding by his teammates? I think Oscar only has to test out Lipovitz before we get to the top of this climb as well. But Ben Healy, I thought that the stage win is still for me the best stage win of the Tour de France. But this effort here, this is another big day for Ben Healy.
Big day for Valentin Parry-Ponto as well. Look at the intensity. I mean, it's a sort of an all-action style at the best of times, and this is the best of times, isn't it, for Ben Healy? He's down to within 10 seconds. It seems inevitable that they're going to catch Enric Mas. Is he at the end of his tether, the Movistar man? Has he got anything saved? I think it's probably the former and less the latter. Up the mountain, and there's no hairpins worth the mention. The sort of gradual little bends as it meanders its way. Yeah, up just at the very top, yeah.
That's it. The last right-hand turn, and it is very steep then. So they are going to catch, but I think this run in towards the finish, the last 4 kilometres actually suits Ben Healy more than the other two.
If anything, they might have gained a second or two on the yellow jersey group at the moment, as Victor Campenard sets a solid rhythm and stays, keeps his man. Xander Maurice doing a great job to hang on in there for a little while, but that's only telling us that this pace has yet to rise. Now, Henrik Mas has been dragged back, and Ben Healy has led Valentin Paré-Pontre back to the front of the race. Less than 4 kilometres remaining. How much longer can Henrik Mas stay in here?
Yeah, you don't want him to recover if he can, and he's got the experience to be able to do that. But you know, looking at his face, I think Ben Healy, well, he is the strongest here in my book. I thought Bertrago was just biding his time, but no, he's back in the distance now, and I think here now Ben Healy, well, he's already gaining time, he's already moving up again in the general classification. There is another stage went up for grabs for Ben Healy there, and that would be a phenomenal Tour de France.
And they don't need to do too much of this, do they? Valentin Paré-Pontre takes them for a little meander around Mont Ventoux.
I think he has to.
Here he comes. Ben Healy tries to leave Valentin Paré-Pontre. He succeeds only in detaching Henrik Mas. And you felt that was coming, and if nothing else, he just needs to continue to ride. They don't want to give up any more time to the Maillot Jaune group, especially as still have 3.4 kilometres to ride on this track. Should have enough in hand, but they can't afford to mess around with us too much.
They can't mess around too much, but Ben Healy now understands that he's in with a great chance of another stage win here at Tour de France, and you know, he doesn't want to drag these guys to the line, but 2.5 minutes and 3.3, we have seen this happen in the past, that, you know, it's brought back together. We're seeing Victor Campenard go deep now. It won't be long until he goes.
Here he goes. Vingegaard launches again. Campenard draws, and just as they come up to a weary time in Arensman, it is the top two on general classification going at it again. Another punch delivered. It's parried without any obvious discomfort to the yellow jersey. Don't be pointing at the camera. Look at the bike race, because what a bike race. Vingegaard looks in control of his effort too. The problem is, yellow jersey's right there. One-on-one now, no more teammates available. It's a pure battle with still over 3 kilometres of the mountain remaining. And close to the 4 for these riders.
No, he flicked the elbow, he wants Pogacar to the right.
بقى ጨዋታ حوي زلازلنا بقميت كان ጨዋታ بخالك بدحيت كان خالك ጨዋታ يا خوي تور دي فرانس حجي عمونغو ريناردو ميسي يا زلازل بقى فينجارد كوت كهديو اكيدني نبوكا تشي هذا لكن هو غلط بالحرارين انكس تبوطو فامبينا ما ما يعرف تيجي تودادار سله اندري زلنا ግን ማስቲካ ሆኒ ይዞ ዝገርፎ ይመስል
for Ben Healy, but also could be a huge day for Valentin Paré-Pontre.
Ireland against France. PF Education, easy boost against Soudal Quickstep. Meanwhile, Oscar Onley has Florian Leibowitz there. He's defending his white jersey. Considerably
many debates
from the battle for the first 2 positions in this bike race. Here comes Paré-Pontre again. He's got and Healy out here. Henrik Mas made his way back, and Ben Healy took him a moment to respond to that one. That was a nice effort from Valentin Paré-Pontre. Healy though cruises back over the wheel of the Frenchman. Probably the easiest part of this climb. Just 6%ish.
Over the top.
وانا من الجيم يا زلمه نعم واو كيدو هيدو سبعي
دي لوكو حيال تتصافي
اه انا قلت البطوله ثاني سامودا تحيزن تخرج دليل مسلم دليل هذا يسوق اورتي مودا
Two duels going on in this mountain
هذا عين
within
طبعات
2 minutes of
هذا
each other,
هذا
2.5
ورد
kilometres to go. They cannot keep going like this, that something's going to give. But I do think that Pogačar is able to stick with Vingegaard. Is this here? Is it a Ben Healy double stage win, or is it France going to have their day with Valentin Parry-Pantra?
Well, Parry-Pantra's advantage is that Ben Healy is always mindful of the fact that he kind of wants to try and take time on general, whereas
He's already gaining time. So I think at the end of the day, we've got a great duel here for both of these.
Not too far from the 2 kilometres to go point. One-on-one for glory amongst the riders for stage honours and indeed for the overall. Stay out of the way. Leave these riders do what they got to do today. What an absolutely immense battle we've had. Long scrap for the early break. 3 up the road. That was pulled back. Then with a large group of 34 clear of the field. 7 went out of that one. Neither of these two went into it because they kept their powder dry all the way to the final 15.5 kilometres. That's where they're going. The iconic weather station at the top of Mont Ventoux. The Ball Mountain has claimed a few victims today. Géant en Provence. Mass showing it about 9 seconds in. And these riders are still closing up to Healy and to Parry-Pantra. Amazing, isn't it? With 2K to go now. Where's the next effort coming from? Stalling a little bit here.
They've got a lot of time, not too much, and I think this is in the best interest of Healy. He already knows he's getting time and everybody else. He's moving up in general classification. He's not going to ride hard all the way to the finishing line. Just for time. He wants to win the stage as well. We're going to see an epic final. Who's it going to be? Ben Healy or Valentin Parry-Pantra? Ireland against France. France have not got a win in this year's tour. This could be the day today. But Ben Healy, he's broken hearts before and he can do it again today.
He's a world-class climber. And
Pedrago's back.
Yeah, Pedrago is, and that's a bit of a headache, isn't it? Clever rider, Enric Mas, and a really strong climbing rider, Santiago Pedrago. Has he recovered? Because clearly not quite on his game against the likes of Healy and Parry-Pantra. But you never know. And if they continue to meander around, one or other of these riders is sure to make their way onto the front to set the tempo.
But this is actually helping Pedrago and Mas. Just gives them that little bit of time out. Pedrago has got a good kick towards the end as well, if it does come to it. But I think that the steeper of a gradient towards the top now, I think it suits. But I'm still sticking with Ben Healy in this one.
Yeah, I mean, those attacks from Valentin Parry-Pantra, they have been searing, and he's got a punch, hasn't he? There's no doubt about it. The sort of punchiness of his attacks, probably off his wheel, going for long-range attacks. Just to try and find a way to take the glory. And worth talking a little bit about the final kilometre and how demanding it is.
Oh, you've already written up here. You're up at 1,900 metres, almost, and it does get rather steep towards the end, and it's that final right-hand bend over the top that really does hurt. So I really think that Ben Healy, he knows he's got time on hands. It's going to come down to the last kilometre now, and we get 4 guys here. I thought we were going to see a duel between Ben Healy and Valentin Parry-Pantra, but I think Valentin Parry-Pantra, he is really desperate to get this. And salvage something for Soudal Quick-Step in France, but Pedrago is a danger as well.
How's he feeling? Tadej Pogačar looked pretty good so far. Jonas Vingegaard, one of teammates. Is unlikely to be able to launch anything terribly surprising from the position he's got. Here it comes. That was Tadej Pogačar. Reached by Ben Healy. Here comes the attack from the other team. Tadej Pogačar desperate to try and put a bit of daylight between himself and Jonas Vingegaard to show what happened back in 21 was just a one. Vingo has managed to fix this one. Will he run over the top? No, he slots back into the wheel of Tadej Pogačar for now. As they reach, 1,200 metres to go, and Julian Alaphilippe will not deliver glory for France today on Mont Ventoux, but Valentin Parry-Pantra just may. And Vingo, I think, was about to get involved. You don't know where to look right now. There's all action behind. And Jonas Vingo did try, but probably needed to launch it just a bit early. Is the next one coming from Tadej Pogacar anytime soon?
It's like prize fighting, punch for punch. Petrarca as we
هذا
saw
عند بقعة
over
يجيبون
with 1
سبرين
kilometre to
كم
go.
يجمع هم
He got
سلوبين
Ben
معلومة
Healy. Ben Healy was the strongest. No, I think he's biding his time just for the moment, right? Valentin Paripatra is dangerous, so is Petrarca. But Ben Healy, let's see, I think he may have the better of the other two. But what an effort here, 47 seconds. It's going to be very close in the end. If they keep on attacking each other, it's going to be within, maybe 20 seconds.
Oh, and it's down to 45 seconds, as you say. This is going to be really, really close. They haven't got that much to play with there. Buitrago on one side of the road, Healy on the other, Barry Pontra, and these are your top three for stage honours today.
ريمو مالو كان زاد لو عند حروي سبرينت جيرهم بتبعوهم مغولين.
They're just in front, and what's that? Van Wilder, is that coming back?
Well, that's remarkable. Dylan Van Wilder available now for Valentin Barry Pontra. It'll be good news for this group, and at least riding an honest pace to the top of the climb from here, because you don't have to pan for too long to see the looming presence of the top two on GC. Pogacar and Vingegaard not entirely out here. Can't afford to mess around too much. Dylan Van Wilder gives a little nod as if to say, I'll set a tempo and turn this one up to try and set up the grandstand finish for Sunao Quickstep, but also potentially for Ben Healy, and don't rule out Santiago Buitrago lurking in fourth position. And this is where the climb is at its most demanding. We've already had 15 and a bit tough kilometres on this climb. This is 10% into the final 500 metres. Well, does this tempo set by Dylan Van Wilder should be good, at least to ensure that the yellow jersey's not coming back up to them. But what about the way that this is going to play the finale for Barry Pontra?
If I was Van Wilder, I would have went straight over the top. I would have played more the tactical game than dragging it out here, because it's not a given. I think Ben Healy still looks strong. Valentin Paripatra, well, the closer we get to the finishing line, the more it's going to suit him. So I think going into this steep right-hand curve here, which is coming up imminently, I think if Ben goes all the way to the line, I think he should have the strength to pull this one off. A famous victory again for Ben Healy in this race, but Valentin Paripatra, the closer we get to the finishing line, the quicker the punch that he's going to have left.
Oh, it's Dylan Van Wilder to sort of lead it out. Buitrago is trying to crowd around Barry Pontra. And we're coming in. Here comes Healy. Healy launches for glory here. Santiago Buitrago tries to react. Certainly is there. He's going to have to get
خالي تعودنا يبين هيلي جال عند قريت والله يودادي زول زرما بلا
So victory for Ireland. Ben Healy is crowded around. Here comes Barry Pontra. Barry Pontra.
بين فرنسا نلا كذا معدو زي نعم عدو بريفوا مالتين لو ما عندي
Quickstep rider Valentin Barry Pontra that takes the victory. What a fabulous contest that was on the hill. Wonderful effort too. Here comes Tadej Pogacar, wants to put a bit of daylight between himself and Jonas Vingegaard. Vingegaard has launched almost all the attacks on this hill between the two of them. Almost nothing between them. Tadej Pogacar, that is just going to take the honours between the masses overhauled in the final moments. The ignominy of it, but the yellow jersey cruises to the line in the company of Jonas Vingegaard. They had boxed themselves to a standstill, really, on the hill. Enric Mas certainly made this a very entertaining stage, and Mont Ventoux has delivered, and it's delivered for France.
Yeah, they finally get the victory. I don't think he can quite believe it, but Ben Healy settled for second place. What an epic ride he had today. Got himself in the breakaway, moves up in the general classification. It's just punch for punch. Julian Alaphilippe, good performance today. Just did a little bit too much before we got to Mont Ventoux, but big day for France. Big day. Van Wilder, where he came from, he went straight to the front because he believed that Valentin Parapanta was going to win that. Ben Healy did the right thing. Just came up that little bit short, but well done, Valentin Parapanta. It's a stage win in the Giro d'Italia. Now he's got a stage win in the Tour, up Mont Ventoux, nonetheless.
Primoz Roglic trying to tow Florian Leibowitz to the line and put a bit of daylight between themselves and Oscar Onley.
صباح ناي بولاتا زلا بنيام إن شاء الله صباح مريم أسمريتي لقاقفة أنت عوتنا بولوتي كورات تغطاتلتي نصباح ناي بنيام مدب تدالنا هم متوكمينا سابسكرايب ناقبركم إذا حدا شانل الناس لزغونت كان عبي عمتا ناتكم دقاف هاي فلين
Finally relief from the effort for Oscar Onley. But it's glory for 24-year-old Valentin Parapanta. Fends off the late bid from Ben Healy to take the first success for the host nation. What a moment for him in his career. Stage win in Giro d'Italia, but this eclipses it by some considerable margin. Career-defining stuff. One of the younger of the Parapanta riders, and now coming in, some 2 minutes and 59 seconds down. Carlos Rodriguez, who's only 15 seconds ahead of, less indeed, ahead of Ben Healy starting the day. 15 seconds, so he's lost a bit of time. Tobias Hallen Johansson, we haven't seen him yet. He's 5:53 ahead of, a little bit more, just over 6 minutes ahead of Ben Healy starting the day. Kevin Vogelan also fighting hard on the climb. A lot of gaps between the top 10 on GC.
I don't think I've ever seen a Mont Ventoux stage like that where they're stop-start attacking each other. I think you got, what, 3-4 attacks and punch for punch they were going up there. I've never, normally you get a stage where it's a bit more controlled, there's a kind of acceleration attack near the top, but they were going at it hammer and tong the whole way up there.
It's really good stuff, I have to say. Issue and doubt on the way to the top, so much to try and digest from that one. Let's figure out how do you solve a problem like Pog. By some considerable margin. Better than everyone else, but
that's what you want.
Partner there. We're now training with them yesterday. Looking forward to it's in France to come. This is, as you say, what Ben Healy needed to do at this moment. Needed a long sprint. Managed to deal with the issue of Santiago Buitrago. But Valentin Parapanta, what about that for motivation and strength? Stretch muscle fibers to go with that climbing ability. Look at how close it was up that unyielding ramp. It's absolutely horrible little final bit. Barely able to get his hands off the bars. Coming to terms with this career-defining moment.
On attendait une victoire française depuis 2 semaines et de gagner ici au Mont Ventoux. Je crois qu'il a fait un truc magique, il a couru parfaitement. Et non, mais ça reste pour la vie, hein, une victoire ici au Mont Ventoux. Et je suis très content pour lui, je suis content pour moi aussi parce qu'on a vécu une belle journée. Tu as tous les honneurs d'être ici.
Still working at the top 10. We got 10 riders up. We got more than that.
Yeah, I think
GC is going to be interesting, isn't it, to see what's
Roglic should get closer a little bit there to Oscar Onley. I think there's only about maybe 30 odd, 38 seconds there. Boykolin is 6th, Gal 7th, Johannes in 8th, Healy 9th, Rodriguez in 10th.
Well, there it is, confirmation that Parapanta has delivered victory for France and Soudal Quick-Step on Mont Ventoux ahead of Ben Healy, Buitrago, and Wilder, Pogacar, and Vingegaard in the top 6, but out of contention for stage honours. The 11th time that it's played host to a stage finish. We've had 18 visits previously, but it doesn't always stop at the top. We've got very nice run down to Malocène that they can use by times. That's the way. That'll be the escape route for the teams, by the way, today. Fast, wide open descents. Beautiful countryside. If you ever get a chance to come, we'll remember the win in 1965. Allez, Poupou. Victory for Raymond Poulidor. Victory for Lulu today. But Pogacar continues. Gained another 2 seconds today. Pogacar ahead of Jonas Vingegaard now by 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Ben Healy up 1 position.
Jonas
Less than a minute behind Tobias
Vingegaard
Johansson, still with a couple of summer finishes to come. Let's hear from Yes, like you said, there was a lot of motivation in the team. We couldn't win today, but we gave everything. So we still have 5 opportunities, and we will try to go for them. You were launching the attack from behind, a long way out, but you couldn't make it. Yeah, I tried from the bottom of the mountain, but I was empty with 5 kilometres to go. And we had to play it that way. We were in a good breakaway. Yeah, like Vicente said, la fuga, and we enjoyed it. We had a victory, but you get a lot of positive messages from Spain. Yes, I wanted to say earlier that in the Pyrenees, we noticed that there were a lot of from the fans cheering from the side of the road, and to be honest, it's something that I've never seen before. So I want to thank the Spanish fans, because they should be trustful, because victory will come this way. This was the biggest performance in the tour for you? Yes. I remember that I've had better days, but had good days on the tour, and I've certainly enjoyed it. Well, what a day we've had. Glory for Valentin Paré-Pontre, and I know Jonathan Harris-Pass was watching and enjoyed. That was a cracking scrap.
Really cracking scrap, and we're just watching with such fantastic, just eager anticipation for that finish, and just willing Paré-Pontre across the line. I think we've had quite long enough without a French victory, and 60 years after Raymond Poulidor winning here on the Mont Ventoux, I think it's wonderful that Valentin Paré-Pontre has won the first French stage of this year's tour, and doing it in such extraordinary fashion. Battling performance from Ben Healy once again. Yeah, just a great day's racing, and once again so fast.
Ilan, on vient de vous voir vous arrêter à la voiture en pleurs.
Well, you had to stop at the car, and you were crying.
Excuse-moi.
Can you just explain what you did?
Je suis tellement content.
I was really happy.
On a travaillé tellement fort et
we worked so hard today.
On avait vraiment des journées de merde
We've had some pretty bad days recently.
Aujourd'hui,
today,
on pris à bloc et
we tried so hard. We went all in and just gave everything.
Like, subscribe,
to everyone in the team, just because.
صباحنا سبرينت صوتها يزلو نحن نقول لنا زي بدنا صوتها صباحي
we've won on
ساعتنا دي الوقت عندنا
subscribe አግኝታ notification ተጻዕንዋ
really
ሞኒ
incredible. I'm really happy for the team. I'm really happy
صباح
for
متان
Valentine.
كنزربح
I
وهلا
don't
ما
have
أبي
any other
متان
words.
تستغربكم
de Remco, il y a eu tout ça,
There's been some
de l'équipe, et là aujourd'hui vous réussissez deux
criticism about the abandonments of Remco and things. Do you feel you silenced all of that criticism
Je
today?
sais pas. J'arrive.
Yeah,
Ouais.
I don't know. I mean,
J'avais roulé un peu au pied et il avait attaqué. Il me disait
I've worked really, really hard
qu'il se
today.
sentait tellement bien et moi je me sentais pas tellement bien.
I
Donc
wasn't
c'était
feeling
facile de faire les
amazing,
choix.
but I was feeling good enough. And
Parce que je suis pas
the
égoïste.
truth
Si
is
quelqu'un est mieux que moi,
I'm not.
je roule pour lui. Et
I
c'est
haven't
ce
got
que
a
j'ai
big
fait.
ego.
Il est parti de ma
I just
roue et moi
wanted
j'ai fait mon tempo.
to lead Valentine to victory, and
Dans une fois,
I've done everything I could for him. And
j'ai fait un chrono contre
I
mon
just
mais
went out
dans une
and
fois, je voyais
gave
le
it
gars un
everything.
peu plus loin. J'ai poussé.
And I pushed
Je
and I
reviens au dernier
pushed.
kilomètre. Et
And
c'était
in the last 10 kilometers, it was really, really hard work. But
la gagne et les autres approchaient
I knew that
le maillot jaune
it was a
approchait
question
assez vite.
of winning or
Donc, j'ai
losing
pas
when
hésité,
it
j'ai
came to
direct
this.
fait un pacing
I knew that other
à bloc
people were
jusqu'à-
coming back. I knew
jusqu'à la
Pogacar
fin
was
et
coming back,
heureusement,
so I
lui
knew
a
I had to
sauté
go
en
all in.
premier. Et Valentin a su sortir de sa roue.
In
Je
the
pense
end,
que c'est comme ça. Et
just managed
oui, alors
to
j'ai entendu au speaker
do
que
enough
Valentin gagnait
and
et dans la
create
radio,
everything.
vraiment,
And
tout le monde est complètement fou. Donc c'était
I think it's
incroyable. Je vais jamais oublier cette journée.
it was crazy, but in the end, we've done enough to win. Absolutely thrilling, the last kilometres of this stage. And as we heard mentioned on more than one occasion, just unreal. The atmosphere. More than once, Enric Mas had to fight back, tried to fight back. It was eventually broken. Ben Healy and Valentin Paré-Pin pushing, attacking, going again and again and again. Enric Mas, in the end, finished 7th on the stage, overhauled by Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard. Milan van Wilder really did put in a massive push, and he managed to bridge back across, and I think Valentin Paré-Pin will turn around eventually and say that that push from his teammate was what won him the stage. Santiago Buitrago trying to pull to victory, but this effort from Van Wilder just cannot be overestimated. Ben Healy, he looked at this point as though he might have it. We spun round the corner off the big hairpin, and Paré-Pin pulled himself through. And as he swung all over the road, through for victory. And even a chance to celebrate.
Yeah, some photographer just ran straight out of in front of me, straight after the finish line. I don't know what he was doing.
فرنسا ግን ትኾነላ ኣላሕጂ
ፈረንሳ ንሕለካ ሎማ ሓንቲ ኣብ ንፈለማ ግዜ ኣብ ዓዶም ሓደ ፈረንሳዊ ኣትዩ ማለት እዩ
ስቴጅ ማለት እዩ ናይ ዓቀበት ግን ማርቲነዝ ወሲዱ ኣይወዳእ
Doing super great, so thank you to all my teammates. Thank you. Oh, I mean, he followed me every time I attacked, and I followed him when he attacked, so yeah, I don't know if I could see any weaknesses today, no, but at least it gives me some motivation how good I felt today, and as I said earlier, I will keep trying.
Well, it was a ding-dong battle all the way up. Jonas Vingegaard's team did try absolutely everything, but in the end, he ceded another 2 seconds. The Pogacar attack, the counter-attack from Vingegaard. It was a stage that really had it all. And Enric Mas, what a day from him. Just pipped on the line. Pogacar just managing to eke out another metre or two, just to pick up another couple of seconds over his main rival.
Et oui, avec les anciens coéquipiers de Valentin Paré-Pont, Romain Pellier, Clément Berthet, Bruno Armirail, qui vont être heureux également pour leur tournant dans quelques minutes. Valentin Paré-Pont va inaugurer donc cette cérémonie protocolaire tout à l'heure de la session des
Well, one of the men who helped out with the efforts of Jonas Vingegaard today was Tish Budut, and we're talking to him right now.
Tish, that was impressive how you guys rode today. Been a lot of critics of the teamwork you've done so far, but that was a masterpiece. Tell us about the plan and the moment Jonas came to you.
We wanted to put pressure on Pogacar, of course. It was good that we have two guys in the break, and then so I could wait until Simon and Sepp were done. That my turn, Jonas went again, and then I think Victor was straight there. So we did our best today with the headwind off to Chalais-Renard. We knew he would need a teammate, or it was a big advantage to have a teammate, and we succeeded in the plan. So 2 more Alps stages to go.
This way you guys were riding today, does that give you hope and confidence going into the Alps?
Yeah, I didn't talk to Jonas yet, but he looked really good. I was also impressed after I did my turn that they still could accelerate. But anyway, it's crazy how fast they go. So I think we gave the people at home a battle again today. Nice race to watch. Yeah.
Thanks for the show.
Yeah, great.
It is true. They gave everyone a show. It started out by Wout van Aert, the last man who won a stage up there that went over Mont Ventoux. Of course, didn't finish on Mont Ventoux, but she went over it twice. So Koos playing his role as well. And then it was left to Vingegaard to make each of those attacks. But every time he tried to break Tadej Pogacar, even though Pogacar was isolated, defending champion managed to always stick on the wheel. Well, a revisit of these pictures for the second time today of just how that duel played out. Here, on Mont Ventoux. Ultimately, though, a stage won by Valentin Paripinte of France. Well, it has taken until day 16 for a French victor on this year's Tour de France, but here he is, Valentin Paripinte, winning 60 years after Raymond Poulidor won on the Bald Mountain, the 24-year-old, with his second Grand Tour stage win, his first coming on stage 10 of last year's Giro d'Italia into Bocca della Salva.
Et de Jean-François Bernard, qui est aussi ont connu la victoire ici, et sous les yeux de Christian Prudhomme, qui a le pouce levé en vous disant que cette journée est ma foi bien ensoleillée, y compris dans les cœurs. Bravo encore à Valentin Paripinte, donc vainqueur de l'étape, félicité par l'hôtel hôtel.
Well, let's take a look back then at a chaotic day out on the roads, and an initial three-man break, which included Hershey, Haller and Maurice. Never going to be allowed to go. They had to fight so hard, put in so much effort, but it just wasn't allowed to go, and the peloton came back to the breakaway. Then there were 30 riders in the break. Then with 65 kilometres to go, Fred Wright, Tiemann Arensman, Julian Alaphilippe, Matteo Trentin, Enric Mas, Simone Velasco and Jonas Abrahamsen went up the road trying to pull themselves away. Enric Mas attacked at the front of the race. With 8.7 kilometres to go, Ben Healy's group managed to reach across to Tiemann Arensman. Tadej Pogačar, 10k from the finish, was in a group led by Sepp Kuss with a 5-minute and 4-second lead, but then a huge ding-dong battle all the way up Mont Ventoux between Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogačar. Enric Mas continued to try and pull away Ben Healy. He attacked with Valentin Paripinte, and they managed to close that gap and link up behind on the mountain. Lots of different groups as up front Healy managed to attack once more, dropping Mas on this occasion. More efforts, another dig from Jonas Vingegaard. Once again, no elastic snap from the man in yellow. Valentin Paripinte put in a dig. Healy responded. This with just under 3 kilometres left of the climb. Healy then attacked 200 metres later. Mas again drifting away, but Mas was to tempo his way back on, and as he did so, he brought Santiago Buitrago with him. This time it was Pogačar who attacked behind as Paripinte went again inside the final kilometre. Jonas Vingegaard managing to counter with Pogačar as they came underneath the Flam Rouge. Brilliant ride from Ilan van Wilder. Led out his teammate Paripinte along with Healy. Nothing left for Buitrago by this stage, and Ben Healy went into the final hairpin out in front. However, Paripinte was fighting back all the way, and in the end, the Frenchman managed to pull ahead and give France that long-awaited victory at the 2025 Tour de France. Once again, in spite of all of that pressure from Jonas Vingegaard, it was Tadej Pogačar who eked out a couple of extra seconds with the sprint to the line. Well, let's go to the finish and hear from our experts.
France finally got their first stage win of this year's Tour de France on the monster of Mont Ventoux. Adam Blythe, you are on the bike first day. Tell us about this crazy stage. How did you witness it?
It was a crazy stage. I didn't get to see so much because the pace was always on throughout the day, so it was always in one line, and just that speed that's never really slowing down. You saw guys stopping for wheeze, but then taking a long time to get back on. When we got onto the climb, the pace beforehand was really, really fast from the second group, and the gap was closing to the peloton. And then when we got onto the climb, I saw Tish Benoot dropping back. He even said, "I'm waiting." And then I waited. I went up the road a little bit, waited for Campanart, and then I came into contact with Jonas and with Tadej. I think with Jonas, he's putting in these big efforts, which he needs to do, but he's needing the recovery in between. But the problem is with this headwind, so Tadej's getting that recovery on his wheel. So I think when he went again, he's getting the benefit of sitting on the wheel and getting more recovery than Jonas. So it was great to see him try today, but just with this condition on this climb, it's very hard with a headwind to try and gap anyone. But it's good to see him trying. And Tadej, he's responding with attacks, but he's not getting that distance like he used to. So maybe in the next coming days, we're going to see maybe some cracks start to appear, but the way that Tadej Pogacar's going, probably not.
Very fascinating to follow the fight for the win in the breakaway. All the teams here had a rider in the breakaway, hoping for a win. Parts are taking it. Speaking to Visma Leasebike, Mark Reeve said that Jonas Vingegaard was really motivating his teammates in the bottom, and they put on a show here. And I think it seems like they gained a lot of confidence going into the Alps.
They put on a big show, and I think the main thing for them is, trying to find a way to crack him, and that's really difficult with Pogacar because he's so good at everything. They need to keep trying, but I strongly believe it's a wearing down process, but with no guarantee. So they can't be disappointed with trying, but that's hard to motivate your riders to do that every day. So, yeah, fair play to them, chapeau to them, but they've got a big job on their hands just to try and drop Tadej Pogacar even once.
A big job ahead for Visma Leasebike and Jonas Vingegaard, but let's say voila, Valentin Paris-Panta.
ተኸታተልቲ ናብ ሎማዓንቲ መደብና ኣብዚ ወዲእና ኣለና ንፅባሕ
A day when he has extended his advantage. The three-time winner of the Tour de France closing in on a fourth victory. 5 stages to go. One that shouldn't make him worry too much tomorrow into Valence. And then 3 big mountain stages.
Un autre maillot, et si vous avez loupé la petite photo, eh bien je vous rassure, il y aura une autre opportunité de se faire plaisir puisqu'il va revenir sous les yeux de Pierre
ክቡራት ተኸታተልቲ ሎማዓንቲ ዝደበልና መደብ ኣብዚ ወዲእና ኣለና ንፅባሕ ናይ ብናይ ስፕሪንት ውድድር ይረኸበና ሳብስክራይብ እናገበርኩም ላይክ ሳብስክራይብ እናገበርኩም ውፁ ንፅባሕ ኣብ ሰዓትና ተዳሊና ፅባሕ መቸም ናይ ቢንያም ስፕሪንት ስለ ዝኾነ ፅባሕ ፀሎት ሓዊስና ندالو نحن خاب ساعتنا قريبنا خندالولكم دلواتنا بروح مشت
has a bright future. Let's hear a little more about him.
Well, thank the mythical Mont Ventoux stage there with Florian Lipovic and Primož Roglic. A great performance from them, losing time, however.